Okay. I am back. I'm back. Let me know if there's any mic weird, crazy issues going on. I killed off VMware as well, too. Test. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Mic check. 1, 2, 3. Mic check. Static check. Sunday static check. Is it Sunday static time? Is it Super Sunday static time? I don't know if you guys can hear me at all, actually. Sounds good for now. Okay, interesting. We hear you. Yeah, okay, all right. Sounds good. Interesting. No static as of now. Okay, really strange that there was static. I'm gonna try to open up VMware after this, after I keep talking, just let me know if you actually hear anything as well. So far so good. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Good. Yes. Ticket notes. Turned it off and turned it exactly right. I wonder if maybe like the sequence of events of opening up VMware first and then OBS messed up something with the audio. I don't know, but so far so good. No static, no crackling, no weird issues. I think you're the only one so far in the chat, KS, if everyone's reconnecting. Says there's 24 people here though. So weird. Okay, so here's going to be the real test. The real test is going to be wild piece. Yeah, good. All right, so the real test is going to be when I open up VMware. If I open up VMware and it blows up again, then I know I have a problem with VMware. So no strange audio so far with Demorier 2. Really weird though. Sin has been good since you restarted the stream. Okay, cool. Interesting. Okay, well, moment of truth, everyone. I'm gonna open up VMware, and let's see what happens. I don't even want to like touch my mic right now either. Like I'm so skittish. Okay, so here's the moment of truth. I am going to hit the start button now, and I'm gonna type in VMware, and I'm gonna load it up. And if I keep talking after that and it starts making crackling noise, then I know we've got an issue with that. So I am now loading VMware right now. Okay, VMware is now loaded. I can see it on my screen. It says Workstation Pro 17. Create a new virtual machine, open a virtual machine, connect to a remote server. I have my existing Windows 11 and Windows Server 2022. Are you hearing any crackling as I am talking right now? I really hope not. And if it's working, I'm just going to keep talking until I see chat messages coming in. There's no crackling, there's no static. I really hope it's working so I can demo VMware properly today. If not, we're going to have to find out an alternative solution. Good so far. That is the weirdest thing. Just by opening up VMware first, created a crackle. So VMware first, OBS second, creates a crackle in the stream. My goodness. I mean, it might just like be this PC. Like it's like a high maintenance PC or something. I don't know. Like it shouldn't be that finicky. HelpDesk ticket 7 micron static. Yeah, right. You know what? It actually might more. I may not have actually disabled the audio stuff on the VM, so maybe it overrode. Maybe it took priority versus OBS because I loaded it first. Good call. I didn't even think about that. I can check the VMware settings themselves and see. Okay, so get this. So I'm trying to go and change the settings of the virtual machines now, and it says that they're currently in use and I have to retake the ownership. So something did screw up by loading it first and then OBS and then killing it. Thing. Okay, well, we're going to set it up again anyways. We're going to build some new virtual machines. I've got plenty of disk space. Interesting. Okay, so when we go through the steps together, I'm going to make sure I cut off all additional features, USB, audio, you name it. Welcome to IT troubleshooting, everyone. Home lab troubleshooting. So it's VMware, I was wondering a while ago. So, I mean, honestly, I think it's just might be... Like, I'm streaming, right? Like, when you're at home, I don't think it's that much of an issue. I think... So this is what happened. I loaded VMware first. Then I loaded OBS. And my virtual machines were actually still in a resume state. Like, I had to actually... Like, they were suspended. And then I started the stream. Then I cut off VMware, and then I killed the stream. And then I loaded the stream first, and then VMware second and static is gone. But while doing so, it said that my VMs were still in use, and I had to transfer ownership, and that's a VMware thing. So something was taking the resources and conflicting with the OBS stream. That's so bizarre. But like I said, this seems to be like a really finicky PC. I don't know what its problem is. Because like it was also really bothered by the Wi-Fi too, which I hadn't had these issues before with my old PC before I upgraded this one. Anyways, that's for me to troubleshoot later. Maybe something with drivers, motherboard, chipset. Who knows? Cool. Well, no static anymore, so that's good. Sorry about that, everyone. Appreciate you sticking around. Let's do this again. Good morning, everyone. SOC 100 crew. Happy Sunday. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be, and welcome back to the last stream of SOC 100-1. Today we've got the last of HelpDesk to go through and home lab. So today's going to be a home lab day. Fingers crossed it's going to be a home lab day, that it all works properly, that VMware doesn't get angry. So let's jump into it and get things going. How's everyone feeling though? Let's get back into action. Going good? Is everyone ready to take off the training wheels? Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. Let's jump into this. So, we are going to be over at... Where did we last leave off at? Yes, we resolved our first ticket yesterday. Our first major ticket. Now we're going to dive into Kerberos analysis. We're going to go through another ticket together. We're going to do, excuse me, a little bit of analysis or a ticket regarding a user that can't log in. And we've got some PCAPs to look at. We got a lot of stuff to do inside of this lab. And we're going to walk through starting the ticket challenges and look at how we can actually kick these off for ourselves. And then we're going to jump into the home lab lectures and then go through the home lab setup. And we're actually going to be using a network diagram tool. We're going to be using draw.io. So this is the first time. Got to get you working and flexing some network diagramming. Going to be an important part of everything you do in text. A lot of like visual model flowchart stuff. So without further ado, Kerberos analysis. Let's go inside of our systems. Let's power up. We're going to go and power up our, where is it? SOC 100-1 HelpDesk. Turn on our server and Windows. I think we need both for this. Fire those both. Cool. Let that went. Did anyone start any more of the help desk tickets last night, by the way? Like, did any of you go and study more, or was the 4-hour stream enough? Started today, normally start after both lectures. Yeah, fair enough. Ariel, looking forward to class. Yeah, you're being here. Thanks for coming back. Cool. All right. System should be up and running, so let's go and connect back to our Windows server. We're going to load up the OS ticket software and take a look at what's going on with good user and problems logging in. Find out why. What is good user up to? He's turning off print spoilers. Spoilers. Good user's a interesting user. They're always up to something. They're the only one putting in tickets for you too. No one else at Good Corp is giving you tickets. I don't know if this is so much a good user. Questionable user at Good Corp, right? Okay, so that should be loaded. Let's fire up our Edge browser and connect. Always take load. Did I actually click it? I guess I did click it. Ah, yeah, I did. All right, let's go inside of OS ticket and log back. Helper. Okay, problems log in. Take a look, see what's going on. Okay, so status open, priority normal. Assigned to us on support. It's assigned to us as good helper. Default SLA. User is good user at goodcorp.local. So as expected, good user is back in action, giving us some work to do. So he says, hello. I've been getting infrequent problems logging into my account. Sometimes it works, sometimes not, and I can't tell what I'm doing wrong when it doesn't. I've been getting keyboard input issues though. So that's interesting. So infrequent problems logging in, works, doesn't work, and keyboard related problems. Okay. Good helper. Please take a look and let me know if you need help. So good helper actually assigned this to good helper 2. Good helper 2 says, do these issues happen when you log into the host remotely? Good user says it happens sometimes when I log in through different means. When we move to a call, it's easier to explain that way. So that's, I mean, like that's kind of normal as well. Like you might just have to hop on a call with the user. So that's a good demonstration of what you might see in a ticket exchange. Text and written communication is great, but sometimes just hopping on a quick call for like a minute or two can really clear the error and get the point across. Invite, cool. Good helper 2 is now escalating this back. Good user has been seeing infrequent issues logging in. I suspected some of the cases to be Kerberos related, so I've run some network captures on their device to catch the traffic. So that's just like setting up, that's just setting up Wireshark and kind of sniffing the traffic that we learned before. capturing the Ethernet interface. This is all a little over my head, though. You make sense of it. So now it's been escalated over to us. Okay. So what do we have here? We have a Kerberos auth PCAP and a Kerberos miscellaneous PCAP. So I'm going to go and download those in the meantime. I'm going to keep those there on the system. And the challenge here now, and this is good exposure for all of you, is that we're now faced with intermittent issues. This is amongst the more difficult and harder to evaluate issues that happen. Intermittent is just meaning that it happens infrequently. So like the pattern is not discernible. You can't really figure out it's happening like every hour, every minute. So like the time component is unknown, which really makes things challenging because then you can't pinpoint what was running during those cycles. Intermittent is kind of like just what happened with like my VMware and stuff, right? So what was like my immediate thought process was what changed? Like what changed from my usual setup that seemed to be working just fine, and kind of just like backtracking and then evaluating from there. I didn't even have to think about like connections. It was just what did I just change because previously it was working. So intermittent is very much like that. Like what was working previously, what is not working now, what clues do we have to work and start off with. So we know that possible keyboard issues, so input, we know that they're able to log in sometimes and not sometimes. So their credentials are probably fine, like their account does work. They may be getting locked out at times, but they can still log in with their username and password. So it's not like they have the wrong password, and it's not like they're not who that they say that they are. So this is why Good Helper 2 is saying, hey, there might be something wrong with the protocol. Like the authentication protocol might be in question at this point in time. So need some investigation to find out why. So first things first, just to be sure, you know, this would be a good opportunity to go inside of our Active Directory. And this is kind of a common starting point. Go inside the old ADAC, Active Directory Administrative Center, take a look inside there, and see if the account is actually just currently locked out. That has happened before. Yeah, could have a nice test account. Okay, so good user. Let's double click them. And now normally you would see like a little pop-up here on this little white space. It would mention that the account is actually locked out. So that's not an issue. Now, let's take a look at this little more information column in the bottom left. Expand that up. We get a bit of a context of what's happening. So we can see that they've logged on 60 times. They were created on October 16th, modified recently. 60 logins over the span of 3 weeks. I mean, that seems kind of high. I don't know. Like a user might have like maybe 2 to 3 logins a day. So it's kind of like on average, right? Like you log in the morning, after lunch, maybe once more on a break. So like 2 to 3 times a day-ish, per se, maybe. So nothing completely out of the ordinary there. Their account's not locked out. Seems to be like normal login attempts. So I'm looking at that thinking like, okay, like if this was like 5,000 login counts, right? Something's really strange if this was over like a 3-week span of time. So that's why I'm looking at that, thinking about that out loud. So, okay, so that's good. Now, let's take a look and see if our investigation will lead us anywhere. We've been given intelligence right away to work with, and that is to go and take a look at these PCAPs. So let's go and do that, so we don't have to go and kind of chase shiny objects. And let's start off with the auth PCAP. Smaller in size, should be a little bit easier for us to glean information. 24 kilobytes versus 295, and if it's auth-related captures, I want to kind of know that right away, right? So let's open up the Kerberos authentication PCAP, take a look inside. Let old Wireshark look up. Okay. quick scan of things. I just generally see TCP and Kerberos related protocols from like a quick visual scan. So let's take a look, and I actually just want to filter on the Kerberos side of things. Let's see. We see the authentication service request. Pre-auth required, so we hit an error, another login attempt, another error. This is just like a general pre-authentication error. That could indicate generally quite a few. Open up the Kerberos header. Error number 30. We actually have a Kerberos error 30 error code. Pre-auth required. That seems to be happening multiple times. Then we actually see the account gets locked out at this point in time. So that's interesting. And then, let's see. That was at 90 seconds in the capture. So the first 10 seconds, a bunch of login attempts, and then a pause. A minute later, a couple more login attempts. As I'm looking at the time column right over here. Okay. Locked out. So at this point, maybe that's when the good user was reaching out to HelpDesk, or they got their account unlocked. Because then we see at 186, so from frame 96 onwards, we see the authentication services request. Got one more error, but then we saw another one, and then the response, and then the request and response again. So this is where they actually authenticated successfully from something that was going on above. So what are we seeing here, right? Kerb error 30. So if we take a look, I don't know, let's take a look at like Kerberos errors. Netmeister. Seems like a good website. Signs of triviality. What do we got going on here? So this is like a general placehold 30. So I guess that kind of looks like a general. But we also have more specifically, so the message type is just like a general Kerberos error, but the error code itself is 25. Let's take a look. Additional pre-authentication required. Okay. Take a look at this. And finally, client revoked. Credentials have been. So, interesting. Additional pre-authentication required. So, in this point in time, this just looks like some type of credential. Oh, sorry, I just went to Google. I just typed in Kerberos error codes 30 AS, and sure, there's probably even. Security. Seeing, these aren't the actual. I like that other kind of triviality. This one's pretty good. This one's matching exactly what we're seeing inside Wireshark capture. Okay, so here you go. Here's a better breakdown. I love Ultimate Windows Security. We looked at that yesterday. Okay, so this is actually the error code 18. Pre-authentication information was invalid. It usually means a bad password. So this is what's going on here. The user is entering a bad password. And we know that their password is fine. And how do I know that? Because I look at the lockout. Like the lockout occurred over here, but then they log in just fine. And there's no exchange in the ticket indicating that the password was changed by the administrative team. We have a couple things that are going on at this point in time, right? General error codes of lockout, client revoked. So we actually see the lockout occur with error code 18. So that's kind of a telltale sign of what's going on. And everything else seems to be in good order. So interesting. So I don't think there's anything further wrong with good user time, just other than the fact that they're maybe, I guess, bad passwords. Their account wasn't locked out. I'm looking at error codes. Everything else seems to be okay. Take a look. I'll put this inside the chat over here. Found what I'm looking for. I guess we can do a little bit of a play-by-play action. Request body, name string, good user, good corp, user request. Here's the client revoke happening in action. So human says, I thought the user review said the user never used the bad password. Well, I think we're seeing otherwise. This is the point of doing the investigation. Yeah. Exactly. So if we take a look at the ticket itself, I have been getting keyboard input issues. So they're probably entering in the right password to their knowledge, but something is messing up with their keyboard. So there is a bad password event that's happening over here. That's good to know. That's been escalated over to keyboard chatter. Keyboard static. Right? Okay, well, we have one more PCAP, right? Let's go take a look at this. We have the miscellaneous PCAP. Right here, there's S activity going on. E activity. Okay, so like nothing strange. The HTTP side. Nothing to export. Follow this. Okay, so this is Microsoft Windows Management Client. Kerberos. Okay, so there's some general exchange of what's going on here with the Kerberos application. DNS. Searches, and then the Kerberos exchange again happening over here. Like they went to leveleffect.com. Why not? Good website. Check it out. Just saying. Cool. Okay, so nothing crazy out of the ordinary side of the adjacent protocols. Take a look at Kerberos now. See what's actually happening over here. So a lot of Kerberos traffic. We have some successes. So these are the errors, right? This is like generally capturing everything else outside of the Kerberos traffic itself. So let's kind of zoom in on this, and we can actually use a Wireshark filter. So if we ever have certain protocols, right, we can go to Wireshark filters. Here, filter. So let's go and take a look at Kerberos. What's going on, Doug? Dude, Karsh, dogs, logs. All right, let's take a look. Kerberos. Search for error. Back to K. Kerberos. Okay, there we go. Take a look at Kerberos. Here we go. So whenever you look at protocols, you might actually see some type of sub property of it. So we can actually see there's Kerberos.error code error flag. So let's take a look at that. Kerberos.code. Cool. Okay, interesting. We got some pre-auth going on. We also have AP error skew. So let's take a look at this. Kerberos error 37. There's actually some other Kerberos errors that are going on outside of the authentication issues that we saw. So on the first traffic, we saw the user logged in. At least they tried to numerous times. Got locked out. Failed. Finally unlocked. Now, in the miscellaneous traffic, we actually see another error over here of error skew. What else do we have? Principal on. So error code 637. Take a look at our old friend over here. Interesting. Okay. Client not found in Kerberos database. Bad username or new computer user count has not been replicated to the DC yet. Had principal unknown. 37. Quick. Clock skew too great. Okay, so let's think about this for a moment. We had a user report to us that they got locked out. They can log in sometimes, they can't the other times. They don't believe they're entering in incorrect credentials, and they think that they're having keyboard issues. So the Wireshark capture of the Kerberos authentication and supporting adjacent traffic around it related to Kerberos, not just the authentication of the ticket granting, but general Kerberos errors, also had indicated to us that there's a time sync issue, and the client principal was unknown, or replication, so meaning like there's some kind of sync happening between the user profile on the workstation and what the domain controller knows. There's something going on out of sync over there. So there's a couple things going on. Keyboard problem, or at least the user thinks, but maybe it's not. Because if there's some type of issue with the time and the synchronization between the workstation and the domain controller, maybe it's not a keyboard issue at all. Maybe it's just a synchronization issue. Maybe the workstation is out of sync with the DC and is running into errors and actually needs to be re-enrolled. That actually sounds a little bit deeper. So something with the protocol, and that is maybe even possibly indicative of NTP. Kerberos NTP error. So network time protocol. See if there's anything on that. Yeah, NTP, right? NTP, the time failed to sync. So it looks like there are reports of this type of activity that have happened before. Yeah, we know Kerberos is time sensitive. If it differs by more than 5 minutes by default, client machine will not be able to authenticate. Correct the problem, all hosts must have their time synchronized using NTP. So this could actually just be an NTP issue with the workstation and we need to re-enroll it. Synchronization is off. Okay. Interesting. So I think at this point in time, I think we've got a good amount of information. First of all, the user account is unlocked. So step one, the user can do their job. That's kind of what we're looking for. Can we get the user back to their state of normalcy? Like the user baseline. The user baseline is able to do their job. That's what we need to get them to, first of all. Secondly, further investigation and capture of the network traffic has indicated that lockouts, like a lockout did happen, but it was likely bad pass related, but actually probably more indicative of some type of sync issue that's been going on. If the user has a problem both remotely and in person, then it would not be a keyboard issue, correct? Good thinking, Karina. So let's take a look. It happens sometimes when I log in through different means. Can we move to a call? There you go. Very, very good. Very good. Caught it. So it happens sometimes when I log in through different means. So if they're not always using their computer, what does that mean? And it happens in different means. So it can't be a keyboard issue. There's something going on with this user account and their profile and replication to workstations side of the network. Now, we don't know why, but there is a clear sync issue going on because it's not their keyboard. I told you Karina is good on this. We got a natural threat intelligence analyst in the making over here. Yeah. The Demore is saying if the main controller has NTP, can resync remotely if it's only an issue locally or through RDP. I mean, either way. So yeah, I think we need to do a full resync. I think we should probably clear the user profile off of the workstations, and if that doesn't work, so we need to work by order of like what is least impactful to the user experience, right? 1, their account has been unlocked. Great, they can go back to work. 2, let's clear their profile off the workstation, whether it's at work or at home. If it's like a VPN or something, delete the user profile. That way they have to relog back in and resync with the DC. If that still doesn't work, then we're probably going to have to do a complete domain re-enrollment. So we're going to have to get that workstation off and re-enroll it and sync back up with the DC. Still not working with the resync at that point. That'd be my recommendation as a kind of a step-by-step process over here for resolution. One of those things should work. If that still doesn't work, then we might have some type of network issue that we're not aware of, right? Let's work through the networking side. But to me, that seems really unlikely if they're logging through different means that their workstation and other connections are both having issues from a network perspective. That's a rarity. Unless you've got a really poorly configured physical cable network going on and Wi-Fi. But that would be really, really unlikely. I wouldn't rule it out. I would still maybe investigate it if that happens again in the future, but real unlikely. Like, bad cables they can happen, but if you have bad cable and like another bad connection, both with the same account, really, really rare, I would say. This guy should go play the lottery. So interesting. Okay, so we've got some things. Let's go take a look. More information needed. It's not an issue locally or remotely. If it's not an issue locally or remotely, it's a home. Yeah, exactly, right, Demoriers. I think at this point, we could move forward with resolution, unlock the account, which we've done, clear the user profile, wait from there. If that still persists, do a DC re-enrollment, because we have to think about what is least impactful to the user at all times. We don't want to just go for the nuclear option, right? Like, if a user's like, I can't log in, you don't go and just wipe their entire workstation and stop them from work for like half a day, right? You don't do that. That's why we talk about this. So we kind of work by like an order of operations. Then I think we can get to networking, worst case, if there's still some type of persistent intermittent. That'd be really weird. Hopefully not. So, hello, good user. Looks like we've been able to track down an issue with synchronization. That's not how you spell that, is it? I'm missing like a H. Yep. Synchronization between your workstation and we've unlocked your account and have at this time ruled out keyboard likely not. Next step is, if this turns, oh, sorry. Going to clear your user profile off your workstations, so it will take just an extra minute or two on your next login attempt to re-initialize profile. You won't lose any information because backed up. File share. You will have to log back in. Sorry, you will have to for any hashed password. Next step, if this returns, would be to roll your workstation, the domain controller, but let's not yet, as that quite intrusive. Do your day. Thank you. Cards. Your friendly neighborhood IT team. Cool. Nice. Oh, feels good, huh? Cleared out a ticket. Crushed it. Analysis. Good analysis from the chat, too. Good thinking, everyone. Good questions. Cool. Very, very cool. Feels good when you clinch a ticket, right? Knock it out. What do you think? Processing, thinking. Maybe too early on the Sunday start to go this deep. Okay, so what we can do is we can post that to them. Now let's do an internal note. Post internal note. Further investigation, possibly. So let's just do some like quick little unordered list over here. User logged in, out just fine with intermittent logins. Account locked out, locked it, captured traffic, and investigated Kerberos error codes that occurred in the traffic. If I can write properly. Looks like possibly an NTP or sync issue going on based on error codes. Profile should help sync. Whack. This persists weak. All stations. This happened. Different logins. Login means. Worst case, we can investigate network connections. Cable, Wi-Fi. Furthering this, possibly something application here that the user installed. Browser, something. Cool. So kind of working up the stack, right? Starting from the most likely place, we stay focused on what was provided to us. Authentication issues, so the account, right? Is the account locked in, or is the account is the account locked out or not locked out? That's what I'm trying to say. That's the first step. Think about that. So we verified that. That seemed to be okay. Cool. Kind of moving through the next step over here, we need to determine what actually happened inside of network traffic itself. So we looked at Kerberos, and we were able to visualize inside of Wireshark login attempts by the user, a lockout, and the subsequent unlocking of the account, and then a successful Kerberos authentication process with request, response, ticket grant, ticket response. So that all occurred normally. So Kerberos was functioning normally when the account credentials were correct, or at least received correctly and transmitted correctly. So we looked at further Kerberos traffic, and we saw that there were some error codes around network time protocol. So an NTP error was also being captured inside of the traffic. So possibly some type of synchronization issue, which we did some further investigation on, and inside of our searches saw that there are user forums reporting something similar to this had happened, that if NTP is out of order, it will actually provide the error code that the credentials are invalid because of a sync issue. So it's not so much that the credentials are invalid, there's a synchronization issue going on. On top of all that, the user is reporting that this happened through different connections. So it's not always just the keyboard in that case. The user thought maybe I was having some keyboard input issues, which maybe they are, but it seems to be that it's not directly related to that because we actually have different login connections that are happening, different methods. So that was kind of like it was almost like a red herring in that case, right? It kind of threw us off a little bit, but not entirely. So ultimately, in terms of resolution, what we can do here is work by order of what is least intrusive to the end user always in IT. First things first, we unlock their account. Good, they're able to get back to work. Secondly, we can go and clear their user profiles that are synchronized during a login from a workstation to the DC. We saw that inside of the Enterprise Windows module before when we first logged in and initialized a user profile inside of the C users directory. That is really, really non-intrusive. So we'll start there. Now, if that still is causing a problem beyond that, then maybe there's a general workstation issue that is out of sync with the DC. We can try some remote resync commands, hit or miss. The best thing we can do in that kind of case would actually be to re-enroll the workstation and reinitialize it. And I don't know why I'm getting that. Cool, I've actually never seen that before. So it'll kick us off the ticket if you talk too long like I did. Okay, continuing the recap. If that's still an issue after a resynchronization and a proper re-enrollment, then we can move into looking to the network layer, which should be quite unlikely because the chances of having multiple network connection failures for a user account is really rare, and bad cables are really rare. It can happen, but it's a really rare chance that it can occur. So we can look at that later. Finally, the absolute thing, and maybe we can even kind of sneak that in actually at times if we're on the workstation itself, is go poke around and see if they've installed something. Our current investigation is not supporting that this is something application level related with like a browser extension or something in the user space, but who knows? Maybe there's something on there as well too. You never know, right? Like it could be like a USB that was plugged in, a device that is messing up NTP. It could be something locally that they physically connected. You don't know. So you need to think about those areas as well too, as sort of like those final perimeter types of things that could be intermittent, cause things. But you don't want to go too crazy in this case either, because you can go down a ton of rabbit holes thinking, oh, they plugged something in. Oh, maybe they changed their monitor cable. Oh, they got it like a gaming mouse. Oh, they got like a gaming headset. Or like you can go crazy, right? So you don't want to think about all of those weird perimeter types of events because we don't have any information on that end, and we need to be prudent with our time. And we need to be focused on the results in the investigation in front of us. We're working with error codes, we're working with what we have captured in the traffic, and go further from there. The majority of the time, that is going to lead us to the correct solution, and the one-offs that we can't find supporting information in our current captures, that's going to happen too. But again, that's on the rare side of like some random thing that they plugged in their work. Could happen, but rare. So we'll stick with what we know. That's typically how you're going to work through some type of help desk ticket resolution. Follow the clues, follow the investigation, follow what's in front of you, and as least intrusive as possible, get the user back up to work. That's what you want to do. Okay, saying it's a low battery Sunday. Yeah, a little bit. Not for me, man. I got a bunch of chugging coffee over here. Get those batteries up, going. Ariel, this is incredibly helpful. I've got everything open, so I was actually able to follow along that way today. Cool, good stuff. Took notes too in thinking the process. Yeah, that's gonna help you until you start really developing like your own for it. CI, I hope that recap was good. KS, it's probably VMware. You know what? Maybe. It was my VMware today. So maybe. Let's go post a note internally. I'm going to go hit resolved for now. Boom! Another ticket down. Just knocking these out. Knocking these out at Good Corp. So why didn't we go to the event viewer route? Well, in this case, we didn't actually have any events set up. That's why. This is a user account workstation. We don't have log forwarding events set up in this network at this time. So we didn't visit that location, Spartacus. So the user was trying to log in from their accounts, but nothing would have been shipped over to the DC, and there's minimal logging set up at Good Corp. Now, on that note, that's going to be a challenge, though, for you as students. Set up log shipping and forwarding when you build your home lab. So it's coming. Good question, though. I like how you're thinking. Cool. I'll take a little break, too. So, here you go. Bad Corp, yeah. I know. That. Throw those at Discord as well too. So some supporting links for investigation. Alrighty. It gets a little bit more fun now, right? Like when you can just start applying this, like we don't have to inject new knowledge. It's just getting the experience and reps under the belt. So we've wrapped up that ticket. We're going to take a break and then we're going to come back and take a look at where we're continuing off. So we just did the Kerberos analysis together and kind of walking you through a little bit more of the methodology. We did some resolution as well too yesterday, walking through a simpler ticket. And then I'm going to talk about how to start your ticket challenges and kind of give you an idea how you're going to go through those. Some of them are real easy. There's two in there that are pretty tough, but the other ones should be like an easy to medium type of difficulty. Then we're going to jump into the home lab and hopefully VMware doesn't blow up on me. Oh man, VMware. Cool. Break time. How we doing? I think everyone needs some coffee energy. Yep. Yeah, that's right, KS. 2 tickets down. We got a mic issue ticket. We got a Kerberos ticket down. Ariel, yeah, cool. Do I like smoothies? Who doesn't like smoothies? Question. Okay. Let's go take a breather. 7-ish minutes. Go get some coffees, stretch, move around. We'll come back and get back to it. Right. Okay. Back in action. Everyone's got their coffees ready. Go through a little bit more of this over here. Good little dopamine hit. Solving these tickets though. Okay, let's keep going. How kids, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay, so let's continue. Next thing we need to do over here is starting our ticket challenges. So here at Good Corp, we have prepared for you some additional scripts, additional challenges. We've given you 6 tickets to do on your own. That's the expectation for this module, is to get through these 6 tickets on your own and work with each other inside of Discord too. That's totally fine. Teamwork is all good so long as everyone understands it and feels that they can go through it themselves. That's the most important part. We only always ask that should never just give the answer. It always just kind of direct and steer and ask people if they've thought about A, B, or C kind of things. So please feel free to do that with one another and help one another inside of the Discord. And let's walk through how you would get started in some of these challenges. So, first things first. Some of these tickets have just a ticket on the board already. So like, let's take a look at help my file is gone. This one's already here, pre-populated for you. Ticket 734-100, I believe, should be the same for everyone on your VM range. Excuse me, just go inside there and just kind of click. And like the others, you've got a little bit of a thread to get you started. So like this one for here, for example, it says, I need access to our records file in the shared folder, but it's not there anymore. I think I might have, maybe, probably, likely, hypothetically, accidentally deleted it when cleaning up files earlier today. Is it really gone, or is there a way to get it back? Pretty sure we covered something similar to this in the Enterprise Windows module. So I think you'll know what to do if you remember that content, or if you're just getting through it and then you see this, I think you might. So that's how you would do that. Just kind of go through the ticket, go through the steps, and try to find the resolution for what you can. Now, you can always do an investigation to see if there are any supporting logs, events, record activity happening. If you can't find it, that's okay, just move on. We're not trying to get you to go and find every single missing piece of evidence here in these investigations, but be timely with your tickets is the recommendation, because it's not like there's a whole lot of information for you to find. These are just more about just trying to get through the motions on your own. So that's how you would do some of those tickets that are already pre-populated. Now, other ones you actually have to run a script. So to do that, starting a ticket challenge, go inside here. You can see there are actually 2 URLs you have to go and download to your. One is the labs.zip folder or file. The other one is ticketfiles.zip. Copy both of them inside of our VM. Download both of them to the server. I'm going to extract all of them over here. Just extract here. Inside there, that's fine. I was going to put them all inside of a folder. Extract here is fine. I mean, actually, I'm going to not do that. Let's put these all inside of a folder. So those are ticket files. And inside of labs, I'm actually just going to do it again and go to extract all. Put it in its own separate folder so we don't get too confused. That. So inside of the labs.zip file, you'll find some files, and these are the tickets we've created for you now. Who knows? Maybe we'll make some more in the future if people request some more. if any of you students want to come up with some help desk challenges, we be happy to have them in there as well. We can make some community help desk ticket challenges. We can show you steps on how to do that. If there's something that you want to do and provide for the community, I think that'd be great experience for you and for others too. If you come up with an idea, we can give you some limitations of what the network can and cannot support, and we can tell you what we can do. We'll basically provide a template to create the ticket based on your requirements and what you're looking for. So you would have to do some tests to make sure that it works inside of this VM range, and then you can give it to us and then we can create a ticket. That'd be a nice little community ticket challenge for people, for those of you that are interested. So in order to get started on tickets that we provided for you, you can go and follow the steps now. For like ticket number 4, you will run the disconnect.ps1 script as admin from PowerShell from the labs folder in ticket zip files. Now, some of these things have some notes. Like, for example, if there's something DNS related, we're going to tell you like, hey, the normal default VM range DNS IP address for the DNS server is here. Just like in the event that you go and you break something. But we encourage you to break things. So you would go to PowerShell, right-click it, run as admin, make sure you're running as administrator. And let's go to downloads, labs. So now we have like disconnect.ps1. We're just going to go ahead and run that. Kind of showing you what the board would look like previously too. Open. Got 3 tickets on the board over there. Run this. And I'm just going to go ahead and save once. Here we go. Took a little moment. Success. Proceeding. Ticket created successfully. Ticket ID 386976. Fresh. Ooh, here we go. Got a new ticket from your favorite user. Good user. Here we go. With no internet. And it looks like you've got an attached file. You got a screenshot. The person says, I signed in my computer today and found that I can't connect to any websites. See my screenshot. I just get an error. This was working okay yesterday. Seeing. So it looks like they've sent you a screenshot. Welcome to your official day on the job as a Good Corp IT security analyst. So that's how you can do some of these tickets that tell you to run a script or something. Okay. Cool. Makes sense? Let me know if that's all clear. Tamori is saying, at least it's an actual image screenshot, not an image posted in a Word document. Yeah, we're trying to make it nicer for you. Yeah, there's actually quite a few like regular users that like they don't know how to take screenshots and things. To be fair, I feel like Windows doesn't really make that easy. There should be like a big button, like take a screenshot. CI says, okay, so do we extract the files? Right, yep. Just go ahead and follow the steps over there, CI. So all you need to do is follow the lab starting a ticket challenge. You'll have 2 URLs to download. There's zip files, and the certain tickets will tell you what to do with them. So like ticket number 3, for example, like I said, we're going to open up as administrator. We're going to run that script. It'll tell you what to do from there. You just kind of have to follow along the help desk experience. Look out for the prompts. Look out what it tells you. And then pay attention to your ticket dashboard, and your job is to go and close all your tickets at Good Corp. Cool, cool. All right. So with that being said, it's time to move over to the home lab. Almost there. This is it. This is the final, this is the home stretch. Rena, that was you sending screenshots in Word. Okay, so we got a little bit of a lecture first, and then we'll begin. And there. So let's clear the air a little bit, talk a little bit about what exactly is a home lab in IT cybersecurity. It's a little confusing when people hear that. We've covered a little bit of it already, right? Home lab, like what does that mean? And it is effectively like your home laboratory. Home laboratory is said, also said it is a sandbox, and what it is truly meant to do is to utilize virtualization, we're going to learn about, and virtual machines to utilize like your laptop or your computer to create virtual versions of things you would see in the workplace or experiments that you want to test on. It is a lab to work on your knowledge, upskilling, and to gain experience is truly what it is. And you can utilize your computer's resources to do a lot with it by virtualizing it as opposed to buying physical hardware. Now, for those of you in the room, I know, yeah, the physical side is great, right? Like going and buying servers and switches and cables and routing it all up, that's fantastic. Also costs a lot of time, and it's arguably easier to get started on the virtualization side than physical side if you're new to this. Eventually, it's great if you can learn some more of the physical, but also arguably, it's not like it's a badge where you have to have a physical server in your room to be able to work in IT. Plenty of people that work in IT in the field that don't have that. That's fine. Ultimately, whether you build a physical or a virtual lab, it's really just like I said about trying to gain experience and knowledge about something you want to learn. And this is where the training wheels come off now. This is where we expect students to go a little off script. Go in, make this more relative to you, because right now we have prepared a course that is sort of like a one size fits all. You know, like, is this course going to be 100% effective for 100% of students? Absolutely not. Like that's an impossible expectation. So we've covered as much as we could to make it as effective as possible, and we'll continue to improve on what we do as we always have. This was previously, when we first made our fundamentals, like 4 years back it was literally like a 12-hour session. It was really, really high level. And now we're at like a 70-hour stream of content. So even then, like I said, it's not going to be effective for everyone. Now, on top of that, our training, just like any training that you'll take, was never made just for you. Okay? It's not like we said and looked in our Discord and said, you know what, we're going to make a training course just for that student. Hope that it fits for everyone else. That wouldn't make sense, right? Now, this is where the home lab comes in. The home lab is like you making a training course just for you. For your needs, at your pace, your level, and your expectations. Most importantly, for your goals. That is why the home lab is so powerful. If some of you want to become cybersecurity analysts or cybersecurity engineers or pen testers or DevOps you know, like whatever your target goal would be, your home lab will get you there the closest than anything else. This is why we're going to go and walk you through the steps of getting started on your home lab, but then having you go and build out the rest of it afterwards. That's the expectation. Demoria is saying it's ephemeral too. Yeah, it's ephemeral in the sense where, yeah, like it's meant for you to break it, tear it down, rebuild it. It's like a giant piece of clay. That's what it's like. And you shape it to what you want, and then you can put it back into like a ball and make it again. Duke Norris hoping to miss much. Yeah. See, I saying we're in a home lab. Yeah. I think, so, Duke, I guess, yeah, you missed the help desk ticket analysis, walk through some Kerberos authentication issues, wrap that up, and now we're moving on to home lab, like literally just started. So, kind of talked a little bit about like what does it serve for upskilling? Well, if I wanted to go and work as a SOC analyst and I had no experience, I could put together a small virtual SOC at home. I could run some malware through it. I could triage it, find out what happened with it, remediate it, and then I could look at all the reflected activity that happened during the infection. I could look at events and logs. I could look at network activity. I could look at visual artifacts so we could find that would happen, like browser activity in front of our face, etc. Changes inside of the workstation, like the registry, you name it. And we're going to learn about a lot of those things. Now, that is pure experience. Pure experience. That is the best form for you, for your goals, to make it to where you want to go. And it doesn't have to be about getting a job. It can just be about just taking something apart further. Again, it's relative. It's relative to you and your needs. So sure, have fun with it. Just whatever it is. We want you here to build your home lab to help you achieve your goals faster and make you more technically proficient and competent. And that's where you're going to gain a lot of that, is actually doing and building the stuff yourself instead of just following through course material, which is good, but it's the challenges, it's the non-guided steps that are really going to push you outside of your comfort zone, get you more and more technically. It's when you go to an interview, I said this before, I got my first purely technical role purely just by walking them through the interview what I did for my home lab. That's how I got the job. Not the fact that I had studied and got my Network Plus and my Security Plus, that I had a lot of adjacent GRC experience. That was all nice to know from them. It was impressive. They liked that. They liked to hear that. Like I was really driven. I could talk a lot about things. But when I walked them through my home lab setup, that's what I was told right away. That is what got me the job offer. The lessons that I learned, the trials I went through, the in-depth level that I could explain things at as a result by learning how things worked, and then being able to demonstrate that I could actually do it. That is how I got to the job. And this is not just my story. I've had many students share that as well too. Is once they went off and they started to build their portfolio and put up like malware analysis write-ups, GitHub contributions, anything that sort of demonstrates that practical experience, which drives from your home lab. That's what all helped them get closer to their target goals. Whether that was getting the job, whether that was just making a dent in something, a solution, improving their performance on the job, etc. So I hope I'm not kind of just like, I hope I'm not really like just kind of rambling on here, even though I am a little bit. But I really want to make it quite clear to you that this is amongst the top most important things you can do for yourself in the tech field, is to tinker. Go and build, mess around with stuff, and do it all inside of your home lab. That will be amongst the top most valuable return on time of free investment. Okay, things make as real world it can be. Yeah, absolutely. Karina, cool. Yeah, good. I'm glad that it's helpful. I know I can go on tangents, so I try to rope myself back in. But let's talk now a little bit about Doug, yeah. Let's talk now about let's just kind of focus now on like the job side, right? So mentioned it, but I'll kind of recap. It demonstrates initiative. Okay? This is a very, very dynamic changing field. All the time. All the time. Like, yes, while under the hood, we've seen, right? Like, Windows is still Windows with a lot of compatibility. It's still like you can do everything on CMD and PowerShell, you know, like all that stuff we talked about, we've learned. But still, the landscape is changing. I mean, heck, look, people are walking around with like mixed reality vision, right? That's a new medium. Yes, it's still like a different set of components and stuff, but under the hood, like it's mostly Linux and Unix and stuff going on. Everything's more and more connected these days, so there's a lot of changing landscape, and it's not like it's not like how there's someone online that is just recording a giant Wikipedia for you to read, even though like Wiki's not bad, but I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not like there's someone online that is just recording every like thing in a big book for you that you can always refer to of like, hey, just pay attention to the latest, greatest stuff. Like, go refer to that source. It's changing so much, so fast, all the time. And one of the most valuable skill sets you can bring to a tech position is your initiative. Not so much your book memorization. That's great, but let me tell you, that book memorization might be very useless in a month or two, or even a week. And I'm not trying to paint the picture that this is like happening all the time. You got to hustle, like toxic positivity. I don't know. That's not what I'm saying either. What I'm saying is, as long as you're willing to put in the work and keep up with the pace and keep up to what is going on, like the modern expectations, upskilling yourself, staying relative, that level of initiative is demonstrated in a home lab, and that's a huge reason why it's such a valued thing for employers and your team members to find out. Generally speaking, employers are going to be looking and happy to hire someone. Like, I guess this is the story that I kind of share with students, is that if I was looking at a candidate that came up and had no work experience, no certifications, but they built a vulnerability scanner that people are using in the field, like they made an open source vulnerability scanner and they work on it and they maintain it, and they're just looking to do some work at a company now, that is amazing. That's a huge example, but that is an impressive demonstration. If I were to look at that person versus someone that just grabbed every theoretical certification in the book, I'm going to hire that other person. Again, it's going to be relative, right? But the point that I'm trying to demonstrate over here is that the value of doing something like this is vastly greater than just going through the education mill. It demonstrates that you can do it. So KSA, we just talked about that with Doug yesterday, how everything evolves so fast, we gotta stay productive. Yeah, absolutely. And Doug's saying, yeah, I think that's why we're doing the right thing. It's why we're different from Try Hack Me or teaching courses, because it is live. Yes, we're trying to give these students things that are real world and going to set them up for real world attack scenario. Absolutely. Tools and security doesn't matter because no tools stops all attacks, but I know from stopping active attacks that your training is what matters and staying calm and acting quickly. Yes. Tools help, but training is key. Right. That's why we train you here. That's what Doug's talking about, is like our training is focused on being tool agnostic. We train you on mindset, perspective, and that competency. That's far more important, so that you could use any tool. You can grab whatever's around you and you can defend. That's how we train you. We don't just get you to memorize filters and memorize rules and say, hey, like, hey, you learn stuff. That's not how we teach here. And this is why we're encouraging you to build that home lab now, is to get off script even further and give you even less guidance, because we've provided you with educational knowledge to go and start demonstrating it. So yes. Now, another key point is building relevant skills. The home lab, like I mentioned, is going to, if you want to go and work, let's go and do this. All right. Some of you want to become SOC analysts here, right? So Cybersecurity Analyst, Tier 1 job. Okay, not now. Let's take a look at this. Analyst, Cybersecurity 18-month contract. Okay, so we're here in Toronto. Canada Goose is hiring. That's pretty cool. Modality, thanks for the follow. Okay, so position overview. Let's take a look, right? So you're going to monitor, identify, investigate, report, and mitigate cybersecurity threats and risks. You're going to review vulnerability scans and collaborate with other operational teams to resolve. Perfect. If you had a home lab that you could run a vulnerability scanner on, you just demonstrated that you can do that bullet point. You can review the vulnerability scan and interpret the results. If you had a virtual SOC that you built at home, which we're going to help you build later, you could do the first task. You can monitor, identify, investigate, report, mitigate cybersecurity threats and risks going through that network that you would attack with. Assist in creating, reviewing, maintaining cybersecurity related documents such as policies, procedures. Awesome. We have a report ready module coming up. We're going to help you do that. But part of the home lab is we want you to build a network diagram. We're going to ask you to commit that over to GitHub. And we're already getting you to build your portfolio so you could demonstrate some of your work. Later on, when we get to GRC, we're going to actually have you building out policies and being able to work with it. So you could do that here too. Okay, next. Maintain up-to-date knowledge of the security industry, including awareness of new or revised security solutions. We're going to get to cyber threat intelligence soon. And again, if you go back to your home lab and start writing a threat intelligence report on maybe like a modern or trending attack, maybe you can talk a little bit about ransomware on the rise, the latest social engineering attempts, you can do that bullet point too. Contribute to building a cyber-aware culture via the development and delivery of end-user training. Cool. Well, everything that I just talked about is all about you creating training documents for people with your home lab. You can write write-ups on how to do things better, how to have better cyber hygiene, maybe talk about an email security header analysis, do like a little tutorial, some of the common things to look for. Cool, you can do that too. Okay, assist with conducting various information security and compliance assessments. Part of the GRC module, again, we're going to show you how to do that, to work with the NIST cybersecurity framework, and how to apply some best practice policies and recommendations towards the network. And again, with a home lab, you can walk through that and demonstrate that, and then put that on your portfolio. Recommend additional security solutions, controls, etc. So remediations and recommendations, that's going to come with all of your home lab. You can talk about what tools are effective, why, what threats look like happening on a compromised workstation, how to mitigate it, how to detect it, and prepare write-ups on what you would do to maybe apply best practices in an enterprise network. We learn about group policies. You can talk about group policies, like which ones would be effective at mitigating those threats that you just found and were able to remediate. I just walked you through how you can demonstrate in a home lab all the experience that this job posting is asking for. That's what we want you to do. That's where we want you to go. You're only going to be able to get here once you get off script. Once you start being able to demonstrate this, that you can do it. Not just that you took a course or a certification. A write-up is just, yeah, it's just a write-up CI. So like a blog post, a written document that you host online, a GitHub post. A write-up is just a write-up of what you've done. And it's meant for providing value to a reader. Does that make sense, everyone? Does that get the point across even harder? Like why it's so important to start getting towards that home lab level? Tinkering around? Yeah. Good stuff. Cool. Now, when you get the job postings that are like, let's hear about you. We always try to tell students, like, the employer is going to try to make some, like a very generalized recommendation because they're hoping that if you were to just generally have that experience, then hopefully you have what they're looking for. But this is not really like the most important part of a job description. If you can show that you can do this and you don't have this specific background that they were talking about, telling you right now, this is far more important. They just want to know that you can do the job. Maury's saying, don't want to self-promote. I know it's early in the home lab course, but have some write-ups going through my home lab setup progress decisions. Awesome. That's amazing, Deborier. I'd like for you to share that with the crew as well too. Once we get to the section where I start talking about like, hey, like go and commit it to the GitHub, or even just share the portfolio. Kim saying, yes, we could build our own scenarios. Imagine your boss gave his kid a Flipper Zero for Christmas, and now you have to secure the company network accordingly. Yeah, right? So the home lab becomes your portfolio. Yes. Yes. The home lab is your portfolio of work. What you've done and what you're able to do. Taking a course gives an idea of what you might be capable of, but it's not specific. They're like, okay, they went through that course, then I suppose they can do what the course says. But a home lab is direct 100% evidence of what you're capable of doing. That is the direct representation of what you're able to do, with no questions asked. So it is a greater valuable asset for your experience, and it becomes your portfolio. Deborier, yeah, thumbs up, cool from Karina. Yeah. Please, you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. If someone has figured out how to make a good home lab for themselves, go and check it out. Maybe there's something that you can read and observe and do it better for yourself. Or maybe you can help them with their home lab. Or maybe it's just a learning experience and then you go and you apply it to yourself. Or maybe you look at someone else's work and you're like, hey, this is pretty cool. You want to like team up with this? Like, you want to work together? Like maybe we can like build a tool together. Amazing. I'm always advocating many hands makes light work for a reason. Go and work together. This is a team sport, cybersecurity and IT. You can't know it all, but you could do a lot more if you team up with others. So go and work together in projects. And a home lab can be a team-based effort. It can be a bunch of you working on something together. So, a lot of important stuff. A third point that's really important is it creates talking points. That's huge. You posted in Discord. Thanks, Tamara. So when you're in an interview and you get the typical question, tell me a little bit about yourself, right? When it first starts. That's every recruiter's like in their mind, they're just like, I hope they say something that I can riff off of. Otherwise, I'm just going to ask them a generalized question skill set until I hear something relative. That's what that means in the background. So that is your opportunity to impress and create talking points and command some presence on the interview. And not only that, if the interview starts to get a little dry, like maybe you can't answer some things and maybe they're not sure what to ask you, you can always go back and be like, you know what? I don't have a whole lot of experience of directly what you're asking for, but I'd be happy to walk you through something that I've done that is similar, and I can walk you through some of the projects in my home lab, talk more about that or some of my experience in another way. I can tell you, the majority of the time, the person's going to be like, you know what, that sounds great. Like, I'd like to hear more. They just want to hear how you think. And this goes back to a lot of the things that we keep echoing here, class after class. Can't know it all. But what you can know is how to problem solve, how to think, how to investigate, that analytical perspective. And the home lab is going to develop the hell out of that ability. Because a lot of the time you're going to be experiencing something new. And it's not going to be the same. It's going to be a new challenge. It's going to be dynamic. Like the variables will have changed on you. It's a different experience. So your teammates are going to hope that you can think on the spot, think on your feet, and overcome. They're not going. If you just memorize a bunch of stuff, it's not. So the home lab helps you develop that problem-solving ability, and it creates a talking point. And it helps you demonstrate your competency that way. Huge, huge pieces that can help you on. So, one of the core benefits, kind of just like mentioned that a little bit right there, but troubleshooting. If we want you to get more into the mindset of, like, don't just show up and be like, something's wrong, or I have an error. Troubleshooting is going to get you away from that. It's going to get you away from, like, I don't know what's wrong. Because you're supposed to become the subject matter expert, like SME is what they're called. You're supposed to be the one that people come to, and they're the ones coming to you telling you something's wrong. You need to become that person of, okay, so it's likely related to this, or I'm having a problem with this protocol, with this service, with this step, with this technical issue. I've tried A, B, and C. I've applied these filters. I've applied these steps. Here's my steps that I've taken so far, and I cannot reproduce anything further than that. This is what I'm able to do. It's not giving me the right results. Can anyone give me some feedback or point me in the right direction? That is where we need you to get to. Doug's saying, yeah, so we talk with those hands-on experience. Yes. This is why we're trying to tell you too, like don't go through this course and try to memorize it all. You want to keep up the cadence and be generally understandable with the concepts as you go through, but then you need to get to work. And then you need to start applying it. Karina's saying it's so helpful. Yeah, definitely. Glad it could help. Yeah. Cool. Lyrical, thanks for the follow. Doug saying, putting it onto your resume as hands-on experience or projects, but not your work experience. Yes. Yeah, so like we're going to get to like the resume creation and kind of where to put what. That's coming up soon. In the next section after this, like in SOC 100-2 towards the end when we start building out a malware traffic analysis lab. Yeah, there's places to put this stuff. So, what are some examples? Because I think that's where people get kind of stuck, and this is what we're going to help you with, is like just start somewhere. A lot of you are brand new to building a home lab, and a lot of you are brand new to the course of this level. So like setting up a simple Windows domain, simulating a corporate network, help desk scenarios like what we've done, setting up a file share and backup. You want to target the job description, job tasks. You want to try and replicate what someone does at work. So we talked about that job posting. Review vulnerability scans. Okay, so a home lab idea for that would be set up a Windows workstation and another one next to it, and the second one has a vulnerability scanner running. So like Nessus or even heck, just like use Nmap if you don't want to go through the trouble. Compromise that other workstation in some way as you learn more about how to safely. Run a vulnerability scan on it, interpret the results, and then make a write-up on how you would approach it. Like, what are the first steps of investigating this endpoint? Or, based on your scan, what are some recommendations you would give to non-technical stakeholders? Perfect. Like that's a very simple kind of, not easy to build, but I would say it's simple in scope. And then this gets you immediately targeted to building competencies towards this specific job that you might be interested in. That's what we mean by building a relative target-based home lab. It has to be for you. We gave some more examples as well too, right? Like you can set up like a SEIM and whatnot. We're going to do that. We're going to build a whole little virtual SOC together throughout the course a little bit later. But yeah, cool. Just kind of want to start there. Then yeah, let's talk a little bit about this one then. Fiber. So, where does this all start? This starts with actually with building virtual machines. And this really throws students off when they first start, like, what is a virtual machine? So, what it actually is. A virtual machine is a software-based computer that runs inside of another computer. It's just using software to emulate virtual machine. It's just a bunch of code that acts like physical components. Just software, it's just code running. And it runs on your computer. And this is the basis of cloud computing. It's just another computer. That's all that means. It's just not your computer. It's just another computer somewhere else. It's in the cloud. So, what is it kind of like? Well, it's like having a fully functioning PC with an operating system, everything, network adapters, all of that. It's like having a fully functioning computer inside of your computer. So, it takes up some memory, it takes up some processing power, it takes up some hard drive space. It takes up space of your running computer to be able to do that. But thankfully, computers have gotten really good, and virtualization software has gotten a lot better. So, yeah, the VM is in the computer. Files are in the computer. So let's talk a little bit about why. Well, efficiency. Clearly, right? If you can, instead of going and buying a whole new computer and server, well, you could just do that with your current computer. It's not going to cost you a dime. Just maybe some of your electricity and your time, right? If you're paying for electricity, that is. So, it's efficient. It allows you to get a lot more out of your current physical setup. Flexibility is another one. That's kind of what Demoria was saying a little bit up in chat. Was this allows you to very, very quickly spin up a server, spin it down, spin up a workstation, spin it down, make a change, delete it, reverse it in time, bring it to a point in the future. And we're going to talk about snapshots. Where you can do that. It's kind of like taking a picture So it's very flexible. It allows you to do this quickly, like on the fly, for your needs, as opposed to lugging a whole server and putting it out and plugging it in and connecting it all and all that stuff, right? Fun. Don't get me wrong, that is fun, but it's not really flexible. Security is another big component. When we're training you to become SOC analyst competent ready, so being able to have a sandbox of your own and building a home lab and attacking it and seeing what happens, that gives you a safe space to develop those abilities, those defensive triage abilities as a SOC analyst. It allows you to analyze malware inside of a sandbox. We call that a lot. It's a sandbox environment because it stays within inside of it. Cost savings is also quite big. Companies do this quite a bit. They virtualize a lot of things to save the big bucks. So you guys asking, what is the RAM minimum for this? You could do it with 8. It's going to be a little tight, but you could do it with 8. 8 gigabytes of RAM. We recommend at least 16 gigabytes of RAM, and ideally 32 and up would be good. And you don't need a fancy computer for that. You can buy like an older computer, or just like stuff some more RAM in there, like an older machine, because you just need space. You don't really need like the fanciest, fastest machine. SOKS saying, yeah, go on eBay. Go and find like a cheap server, right? Like ebay.com. Go to of life server. I don't know. No, that's not helping at all, is it? Or server. There you go. It's not too bad. Watching some stuff over here. Something a little bit pricey. A couple $100, pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could even go buy like... Just grab something like that. Some of these cheap ones. It's a mini server, 8 gigabytes of RAM for $40. I mean, even like the new Mac M4 is pretty good, but that's an ARM chip, right? So just keep that in mind. Like if you're to grab like the Mac Mini for $499 base, a solid little server, super fast. Yeah, so you can see, right? Like here you go, 32 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte. Here you go. Like this would actually be a pretty decent server. Terabyte, Windows Mini PC, $80. Yeah. I mean, there you go. Like, you can go and find some cheap things. Yeah. I would avoid laptops if you can. They just get too hot. Dell T-Series workstations. Yeah. Some of those are like old chunky Dell workstations are great. 32 gigabytes of RAM. Ideally, is there an ideal operating system for the host machine? It's not so much even about the operating system. It's more about the chipset. So, like the Mac M series are ARM-based CPUs. They're different than, say, like your typical like 64. Like you look at the architecture. The architecture is going to determine what you can support. I would personally recommend like a Windows, not a Windows. Like you could do like a Linux based setup. That would be really good for you. But when you first start, you're probably gonna just stick with Windows for what you have. We're gonna set you up with that because that's probably the easiest entry point. Go and get like VMware Workstation. We're gonna walk through that together. Raspberry Pi could be fine too. Doug's saying there's a 64 gigabyte RAM laptop on eBay for $615. Yeah, go for desktop. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's more about the architecture is the biggest concern. I would probably, if you are really dead set on having only a Mac at home with like the new M series chips, then fine. You can still virtualize and make things work, but just be aware you're going to run into issues with compatibility at some point. So just be ready for that to troubleshoot, and it's fine. I do a lot of my virtualization on my Mac, like my work Mac. It's fine. I can get a ton of it done for what I need. But there are still times that I run into issues and I'm like, okay, I gotta hop on Windows and I gotta do it over there, just with the CPU compatibility. But that's gonna happen. So that's why I recommend, if you can avoid starting off from the Mac side, stick with Windows for your virtualization for the CPU and architecture support. Because you're gonna run into some weird wonky things. Now, for test purposes and for what it is, for where we're getting you, if you have a Mac right now, that's fine. Garbage Apple's trying to force you to buy constantly. Yeah, I mean, mostly, right? Like, I think that was more of an issue before. Like, the M1 from like 2020-ish or whatever is still running nice and strong. You had one of those, like you're fine. Like an M1 16 gig Mac, like you can still do a ton of this stuff for at least another couple of years. But still, it's going to cost you a lot more than if you just bought something like this. So that'd be like my recommendation, is go, and even like local in your area. If you know like an IT company, or actually like your IT team at work, ask them if they're going to be tossing out their servers. Like, when's the next upgrade? Yeah. Thanks. What was the best chipset with Windows I missed? Intel. I would recommend to stick with Intel for your setups. AMD is good. It's cheaper. AMD, from my experience, and a lot of people that I know have set up AMD setups, have run into weird CPU issues, like weird CPU kernel issues at times, support issues with drivers. It's just generally, it doesn't seem to be as reliable. With Intel though, I seem to have no issue. I haven't ever had an issue. Neither have the people that I've known. Again, a little anecdotal, but from my experience, that's what I've seen. KSA, yeah, if you're at work catching dust, yeah, right. At Doug's, you have 3 machines, a Windows OS, Chromebook, web surfing, then a mini PC as attack box. Yeah. Yeah, Proxmox, you can set that up. Computer recycling centers in your area, cool. Yeah, pros and cons to all of them. That's why we're starting you off. Like, we're going to get you to build the home lab together with the most basic setup for now. And please don't spend any money yet. Please don't go and buy anything yet. Do some investigation and some research for your needs and ask questions around. We're here to kind of help you out for your own individual needs in the Discord. Everyone's going to be different. So don't go and buy something fancy just yet. You can probably maybe get away with what you need for now with your current setup. Karina saying, so laptop runs hotter, but would a laptop be good so you can take it to your interview to show them? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, like a Mac M1, like my Mac M1 that I bought years back now, 32 gig. I have a whole virtual SOC inside there that I spin up for myself and my needs. It's perfect. Like, I can do a whole ton of testing inside there, and I can take that anywhere with me, and it doesn't even get that hot. But just keep in mind, there are some random compatibilities in that regard. But if you were to get like a 32 gig laptop, you can be portable and work with and kind of demonstrate for your needs, then yeah. Yeah, hot garbage, like, yeah, that's going right in the guest network. They're not gonna they're not gonna let you connect to them, so just demonstrate it locally. Yeah. Like, so a PC or an actual server is just nice to have because you can keep it on. It's good for the heat, and if it breaks or something, it's not that big of a deal. So some kind of pros and cons. So let's talk a little bit about So let's talk a little bit about some of the terms over here, like host and guest. So when we start talking about them, it doesn't throw you off. Yeah, exactly, Doug. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, don't go and buy stuff yet. Like, kind of chill. Let's see what you can do with your setup for now first. And it's easy to get excited and go like, all right, I'm gonna go drop a ton, and I want to set up this whole server and all that stuff. So just wait a little bit. And yeah, use the home lab channel, please. We have that actually over here. You are to use the home lab channel. So we're gonna actually hop you outside of the course to talk about that stuff, so you can engage with others as well too. So, all right. So guest and host, just a real quick kind of mention of what that means. Because you're going to hear this, it's going to throw you off a little bit, but like your host is your physical machine. That's what's running the virtualization software. Okay? The guest is the virtual machine itself. Okay? So it's just like a real life dinner party, right? The host is you, and you've got some guests coming in. Those guests are virtual machines. Good guests. They need a lot of resources. Make sure you feed them. So, that being said, how does this kind of work? Well, your host actually stores the virtual machine as like a single file. It's just like one giant file, or you can split up multiple of them. But it is a giant file that is the computer. It's a large file. Like 60 to 120 gigabytes, if not more. It's a big file. So hard disk space is important to be aware of. Now there's some formats that you're going to see. You'll get more familiar with them, but just be aware that you're now going to be seeing some new formats like VMDK, which is used by VMware, VHD. It's like virtual hard disk, virtual machine disk, virtual disk image. Everyone's kind of got their own flavor from different vendors out there for different needs. They're all a little different in their own ways. So whatever software you end up going with, we're going to use VMware. We're going to be working with VMDKs. So something to keep in mind as you are learning in the future, like compatibility. Like think about that as well. Like if you're thinking about sharing or exporting or importing your virtual machines around, then compatibility might be a question. So just be aware that there are different formats and they have different use cases that you can research for different performance requirements. So the next thing to talk about is this concept of a hypervisor. And this is actually the virtual machine software. Like this is the VMware workstation that I loaded earlier and blew up my mic. So that's what the hypervisor is. And kind of it's called like hyper because it is above the hardware level. So kind of like sits, you have like your kernel, right? That we talked about that loads when you first initialize your workstation. There's going to be a separate space after that or your hypervisor that kind of works within its own kernel space, virtualized inside of your kernel space. There's like a layer of inception happening over there. And there are effectively two types of hypervisors. The first one is we like to call these things bare metal. And bare metal means that there is no operating system. Like there is no Windows. Like there is no Mac. You don't have Linux. As soon as you boot it up, it turns into a virtual machine software-based operating system. That's a type 1, like a bare metal. And we call that because it's running on the hardware. There is no operating system for it. And that's where you have things like VMware, ESXi, Hyper-V, etc. There's like imagine you turn on your computer and instead of going to Windows, it's just like a screen. Here, I'll show you. Where ESXi. It's a terribly blurry. Okay, here you go. So here's like a remote view into it. And it would run like on a server like this. Like, so you'd have a giant server, super performant. You would boot into it and it would just be like a screen. Text, visual, GUI, depending on the flavor that you go with. And all what it does is it provides virtual machine resources. So that's the most performant because it's running on the bare metal. Like there's no operating system layer in the way of it. That's where people have like servers at home and servers at work. Where you just have a server running with only virtual machines running on it. Type 2. So that would be hosted hypervisors. That's what like VMware Workstation is. That's what we're going to set up. That's like VirtualBox, a whole bunch of those things. So that's where we're going to go with our setup. That's the easiest one. It's now free, which is super cool. So like VMware Workstation Pro, now available for free. Actually used to cost before. But we're going to get that set up right after. Take a little fiber break. So that's some of like the key important terms to kind of know right away. You're going to be seeing some new extensions. You're going to have this concept of the host. That's your computer. And then guest operating machines. Those are the virtual machines. And they're just like a giant physical disk on your hard drive. Sorry, a giant file on your hard drive. And that file is the computer. And then the virtual machine software will load that file and then provide you an interface to interact with it, and it'll feel like a computer within a computer. And that software is called a hypervisor because it lives kind of like right above the hardware level. So it goes pretty deep. When you install VMware and these hypervisors, typically you might have to like reboot and install some deep level things because they, like I said, they kind of load right after the kernel space. They're really, really low on the level between where we're at here on the application layer. Cool. I'll take a little bit of a break right there. And then we're going to talk a little bit about containers and snapshots, which is going to get advanced. And then we're going to get into the network diagram. And then we're actually going to build our small network. It won't take too long. You see like how extensible it is. Posture fix check. So Kim, you grabbed a you upgraded the Ryzen 9. Nice, 64 gigs, pretty cool. Just throw a cooling pad under. You're one of the little laptop cooling pads with some fans. Get some RGB on it as well. Yeah, Karina, good to know. All right. Cool. Making some progress here in terms and stuff. We're going to take a break. We'll come back now with... we're going to talk about ISOs, images, like image containers, buckets. And we're going to talk a little bit... This is going to be advanced. We just want you to be aware. We're going to talk about containers and containerization and Docker and stuff. Kind of what that is so that you can be aware of it. You'll get there eventually. Then snapshots, pretty straightforward stuff. And then we're going to do our first network diagram together. Cool. Break time, everyone. Take a little shorter one, maybe like a 7-minute break this time. Keep the pace so we can wrap up today. Okay, okay. Let's go. Let's do this. Back, everyone. Okay, so cover a couple more things over here, and then let's do the networking diagram lab together. So a little bit about containers and ISOs, Docker stuff. This is going to be a little bit advanced, but I think it's important to understand. I think it's important to understand what's out there aside, because you're going to come across. We're going to cover it lightly, but not go too. Okay, because I'm sure everyone's kind of heard like, oh, Docker this, Docker that. Docker sounds so like legit, so professional if you can talk about Docker, right? But cover a little bit. Or some. Kind of work within your budget, right? I'm sure DDR4 32 gig or 6 cheap, decent CPU, handle that. I'm gonna be able to spin up a couple. So let's go and talk a little bit about ISOs, containers, containerization. So let's talk a little bit first about what is an ISO file or image. And an ISO file is kind of just like a giant, it's just a giant bucket. It is a way to store a bunch of different pieces of something greater and then wrap it all up inside of a container. That's what an ISO is. It's essentially a container file, container image. And it holds the complete representation of something. And I mean everything, like the files, directories, etc. And that is what a virtual machine will load to install an operating system and everything to another file. So what's going to happen here is when we start our virtual machines, when we create them, they won't have any weight to them. They're just going to be like empty. It's like a giant empty file. And all we've done is we've told our hard drive to set aside this amount of space for our requirement. And then to install like Windows or Windows Server, we have to load the ISO file of Windows or Windows Server. And that's another container. That's a separate container image that we load into the virtual machine upon creation. It'll install everything inside that ISO container into the virtual machine file, and then we don't need that ISO anymore. It's kind of like I don't really have the greatest non-technical example for that. I was gonna use a VCR. I don't know if everyone knows even what those are with their like VHS tapes and everything nowadays, but I guess what you can sort of think about is maybe like a CD player or a disc player or a VCR, like a cassette player, even like a record player, right? Those Betamax, those objects, right? Like those cassettes and tapes and discs, they all have like a case, right? Actually, you know what? Okay, here you go. I'm just gonna grab a game next to me right now. I actually just grab Final Fantasy. So, right, like we have this right here. This case is wrapped around this case is wrapped around this CD. Okay? This CD here contains what we're going to put inside of a virtual machine. Okay? The case can be thrown away after if you really wanted, but don't throw away Final Fantasy case, of course. Looks good on a shelf. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take that ISO file, which is like the disk, and we're going to insert it inside of our player, which is the virtual machine, hypervisor, and then it's going to install everything it needs to run from that disk, and then we shouldn't need it anymore. Oh, yes, game consoles still require the disk, but what I'm trying to say is, like, imagine you copied everything inside the disk that you need, and you put it inside of your device. That's what the virtual machine is doing. Just copying it all over, taking everything it needs, and then it stores it. And then your virtual machine is independent from the disk in the case at that point. Then it can run on its own. That's what we're going to do. And that's what an ISO file is. Yeah, floppy drives. Just wait a minute. We got some older folk in the crowd. So, yeah, we've come a long way. We have. So these ISO files, you're going to see them kind of referred to often. Like, you're going to hear things like mount the image, mount the ISO file. That's what we're doing. It's kind of like when you put the disk inside of the system, you're mounting it on something, and then the system reads the disk. That's what's happening with a virtual machine hypervisor. Mount this ISO image. Hypervisor reads it and copies what it needs from it to create the virtual machine, and then it doesn't need ISO anymore. So what we're going to be downloading are a Windows ISO and a Windows Server ISO to get started with our home lab. Now, sometimes they have different types of extensions like .img, like an image. There are other types as well too. You're going to come across these, and again, you can kind of look them up as you go. But we're going to start off with the ISO files because that's more the most common one that we'll be working with. Now, let's talk a little bit about containers now, because it sort of starts to use some of the same terminology, which can be confusing. So an ISO file is a container and a full representation of the installer code to install something, typically. Or it's a container for running media. Like, that's why we used to, like, burn ISOs, like burn them on disk back in the day. You would burn DVDs and things. You would use ISO files as well too in that process, because it's a complete representation of something. So, when we're talking about a container, and we get into containerization, we start talking about a little bit of a different concept at the same time using the same word. And a container can also actually operate as a single standalone executable package. Okay? What that means is we can use container software to read that package, like read the container itself, run it, and then be done with it. And then you tear it down and it never exists after that. That's a little bit different than a virtual machine. Virtual machine is we mount the image. We're effectively mounting that container image. We're copying it over and installing it somewhere else that we can use for as long as we want after. It's persistent until we actually delete it. Now, there is another form of software that can run it can run a container, like, and the software has got common names like Docker, where it can run the container temporarily and then tear it down. That's what containers and containerization is sort of like. It's, again, kind of going back to the disk over here, it's actually a little bit more representative of that, or a CD player or a record album that you put on a record player. Once you take out the stuff inside the container, take it out, and you mount it and you run it. It runs until you're done with it, and then you take the disk out, and then it's done. Like it goes back inside the case. That's kind of what happens with containers and containerization, and they're similar in the sense where you can virtualize something, but they have a very different use case. Virtual machines create an entire operating system. Like you can make a computer within a computer using a virtual machine. A container is a lot lighter in weight than, and a container is sort of just, it's focused on maybe like an application. So if I wanted to follow Cybercoster, so if I wanted to containerize, let's just say this web browser right now that I'm on, right, with all like my tabs and everything that I have running, I could package it up and put it into I can put it into a container file, and then I could use a tool, Docker, and these other pieces of software that can then run that container wherever on any workstation, any computer that supports it, and then it'll open up exactly like how I had it. And then when you're done with it, you'll tear it down. And then it doesn't exist anymore until you run the container again. So it's a bit of a different use case. And to kind of give you an idea, like a more physical representation of what I'm talking about, if I were to go and write this code, right? This is a Flask. This is a Python app over here. It is a really simple Python web application. And what it does is this image right here. So after I run this Python code and I create a Python app, it's just going to say hello, like hello Docker. Like it's really, really simple. Now what I could do is I could bundle this up and I could containerize it. And what's going to happen is I would just prepare some instructions on how to run that container in the future. And it builds this container for me. And it turns into what's called like a Docker image, or these other types of images, which are again just containers. And now I can share that with anyone. And as long as they have Docker installed, they could run my container. They can run my disk, right? Like if I have a PS5, you have a PS5, and I give you my game, you can run my game just the same. That's kind of what like Docker is like, is some developers packaged up Final Fantasy VII inside here as a game. This is a container, like a Docker container file. You put it in your PS5, or I put it in mine. We're both able to then play the game whenever we want, and it's the same experience for both of us. And then when we turn it off, it's done. That's what Docker is doing. That's what containers are like, and that's what containerization is like. And then with virtual machines, the difference is I would, instead of just running the game and then be done with it when I power it off, I would copy the game over. I would copy the contents over so I could run it whenever I want. It'll stay on as long as the system is running, and I turn it back on. And I can change it, I can edit it, I can modify it. So very different use case. And again, this is advanced, so don't worry too much if that's like, wow, like what's going on? It'll make a little bit more sense as you go, but I want to sort of just provide a general idea about the differences, because you're going to come across them very soon as you start to build out your home lab and not. Kim Fried saying, and it's host agnostic no matter what the OS runs. Docker, yes, correct. That's the beauty of running, and that's why like containers have become so popular, because you don't always need a virtual machine. Like, if all you needed to do was run this app, this simple Python app, why would you go build a whole server for it? When I could give you a Docker file that you could run on your existing computer and then just run it for whenever you need and then be done with it. So it's a bit of a different use case, but that's why it got so popular, and that's why everything's like, oh, just Dockerize it. Make a Docker container for it. Because that's actually really useful. Cybercoster, so you're starting with first cybersecurity analyst role next month. What do you think? I should start writing advice before I start working. Yeah, first of all, yeah, congrats. Awesome, good job. Big loaded question. First of all, maybe tell the chat a little bit more about what type of duties you should be encountering. Like, are you a tier 1? Are you a tier 2 and up? Maybe give us some more context and what type of industry as well too. Give you some more pointed advice. I don't want to just kind of give you something generic. Make it a little more relative to you. Tier 1, first job, it's in the military. Okay, cool. Yeah. So you definitely... You're going to be doing a lot of triage. So kind of like advice for everyone too when you hear this. You're going to be doing a lot of like general triage as well too in that position. You're going to be looking at indicators of compromise as they come in from whatever is your attack surface that they tell you, so that you'll have information, and that's kind of what Huck Arbage is saying. The job description should tell you, they should tell you what is your attack surface. You're going to just have to learn how that attack surface can be compromised, and then you have to find ways to mitigate those IOCs when they come. That's a high level for that. Like if you're going to be Windows heavy, learn how Windows is compromised, and then you need to mediate that and flag it when you see things coming in that could trigger that. Drop the job description inside of the Discord as well too. We can hit you up after the stream. Give you some more advice as well too as we go. I wish I could just give you like a dedicated answer. Karina, sounds to me like maybe a Docker or container disappears when you power down the machine, but a virtual machine remains. You got it. Exactly. That's it. Yes. That's exactly it. As soon as you turn off Docker, like as soon as you stop the Docker process from running, your containers will be torn down as well too. And then they're gone. You have to be restarted from the default state the next time you turn on Docker. Now, virtual machine remains. Yes, it is a file that'll live on the disk afterward. So if you turn it back off, you can turn it back on whenever you need, and whatever you've done with it will persist as changes. Stuff. So Karina's saying, cool, so why do you want a container disappear when you power down? Lose your work? Because containers are more like purposeful, run and like one and done, run once kind of as needed, and be brought back up in a predictable state. Some containers you can actually store some information, like a little bit on what you're doing and what changes you're making, but it's very light in modification ability and only what the application can support. Like this app here that I could Dockerize would only ever be able to do this. I can't go and change like the source code and get it to do whatever I want differently. Like as it's running as a user. Cyber saying sometimes things also used to test malware and infected files, so it's better be done in an isolated environment. I mean, yeah, that's one use case. Same with the VMs, but again, the larger difference is the resource consumption and purpose. You don't always need a full operating system and computer. Sometimes you just need an application, and you can containerize that. Demore is saying can use mapping to store data outside a container, but it's a lot more additional work. Karina, seems like for home projects we want a VM then. Yes. I mean, I don't want to just like give blanket yeses. For what we're teaching you, yes. Because we're going to get you to build a home Active Directory network together. That's what we're going to do. So we actually want you to be working with Windows and Windows Server and learning more about it and changing it and breaking it. That's different than a container. A container would be like, I just need a web application running. Cool. Okay. Let's just containerize that and then spin it up as I need and share it with other people. Yeah, another cool idea. Fans just buy old laptops. Yeah. You're going to be using both as you develop more. So that's why I'm giving you a heads up now, and this is advanced. We're going to start with virtual machines, then we're going to get to containers later. All right, let's talk a little bit about snapshots, and then let's actually get building on the lab because we've got an hour left. Should be enough to actually get through it. Snapshots, we'll go through this real quick because it is real quick. A snapshot is just taking a snapshot. Cyber, yeah, all the streams are recorded on our YouTube. You can start right from day one, and you can keep going with us as well, too. We're going until March, going through the entire SOC 100 course series. Be great to have you with us. Hop in the Discord, too. You can ask questions and catch up with us, too. So a snapshot of virtual machine is exactly what is the name of it. When your virtual machine is running, you can freeze it. You can take an actual snapshot of it, and it just updates the storage file, saying this is a point in time that the virtual machine can be returned to whenever needed. And this is just a feature functionality that hypervisors provide, so that when you first install your image, your machine, and all the stuff you do to configure it, that takes time, right? Like, you don't want to have to do that every single time. So you would take a snapshot of it, of when you're done, like your baseline configuration, and then like that's your base image. And then from there, it's a blank slate. And there, maybe you could like run some malware through it. And then once you're done with your malware and you've done your analysis, well, you could just revert it back to the image. That's where snapshots come in handy. Instead of having to redo all that work again or undo all the damage you did, you just literally reverse it. You just revert the image. Yeah, Cyber, in the bottom of the stream, you should see some links. You can hop in our Discord and our SOC 100 course. I really need to get that bot set up. Thanks, CI. Thanks, Karina. Gotta get that bot set up. Ask, make it easier. Cool. Okay. That's snapshots. It's really not that much more complicated. Cyber, yeah. I mean, I don't know if everyone here wants to be SOC analysts, but I think some of them are just kind of learning. But we're taking you from the basics of Windows desktop all the way to Tier 1 Cybersecurity Analyst triage in a virtual SOC. We're doing that over 5 months with the SOC 100 course series. So you're in a good place. This is what you want to learn. Here you'll find it helpful. We're on the IT stuff now first. Abbe's saying it's a fair assumption that all SOC 100 labs can also be done in a home lab setup. Correct. Yes. Yeah. That's why we're teaching you everything here, but then we're also going to get you to build your home lab so you can do it in your home lab. You can go through and do all this stuff. You just have to build it. Okay, so network diagrams. This might be the first time that a lot of you have seen making a network diagram. It's really not the most complicated stuff, but what we're going to use is a tool called draw.io or draw.io, everyone you're good with. And we've talked about, like, you remember the streams that I had the iPad out and I'm like drawing and making models and charts and all that stuff? You saw, right? Like, it's pretty common. You're going to be doing a lot of modeling and diagramming because it's a lot easier to visually communicate everything than it is to write like an entire paragraph all the time for everything you're trying to explain. Now, network diagrams are very commonly used in IT and cybersecurity to have a map of our environment and our surface. Says fired. So be able to go to the popping that link should bring you to ours. So yeah, network diagrams, you're going to see them pretty commonly and a lot of like flow charts and stuff. This is very common in IT, and cybersecurity is creating diagrams. Draw.io is a great tool to be able to do this, and we're going to get you to start with it so you could build out your home lab visually before you get started. Now, I'm saying that because this is good advice, and you're going to notice, like, even more experienced software developers, the last thing that they want to do is like immediately start writing code. For this reason, you really want to map out and plan and think about what you want to do, and then commit to the task of doing it. So we're going to start with draw.io, which is a free tool for you to be able to do things like that. I'm going to hit start. It's going to ask us some questions, what we want to do. We can save it to the device or the Google Drive. Pretty sure I authenticated a second offline. So it's going to ask you where to share and where you want to do things. And I'm going to go with Google Drive. I'm just going to say authorize. Yes, that's fine. It's going to give me like a little pop-up. I have another pop-up window here that you can't see. I'm going to click on my account. I'm going to say continue. And I'm just going with Google Drive for the sake of it. It's easy for me to share things. So now I'm authenticated. Oh, I'm in. So this is draw.io, and a lot of these flowchart tools are effectively the same. We have shapes and things on the left-hand side, connectors and grids and things we can hook up. So let's go ahead and actually like design out what we want to do. And I want to go and type in like Windows over here in the top left. And you can see it actually has some like little built-in icons we can drag. So and drag that over. And I'm going to go and drag in, well, I'm going to keep this. So I've got my Windows workstation that I want to build and my Windows server. So I have like an idea of what I want to build. And you'll learn the little mouse and keyboard shortcuts like hold control and then mouse wheel. Mouse wheel to zoom in and out. And hold the middle mouse click to be able to kind of move around. You'll kind of figure out your keyboard shortcuts and stuff as you go of what you'd like to do. So let's give it a bit of a boundary now. And I want to go over here, and I think I'm going to use a square. Angle's fine too. Now notice that when I do this, it works in layers. That's a bit of a problem, right? So this is something to be aware of when you're working with these flowchart tools, that there are virtual layers happening here that you can't see. Like there's a depth to it. You just have to give it a value. To be able to do that, we can right click. We can say things like send backwards to the back, and I'm going to send it right to the back. This is actually going to give us a little bit more room now, and we have a boundary of what our network would look like. I can lock that so that it doesn't get in the way, and I can just like highlight these. Cool. So I'm going to go and select this, and I can hit enter, and then I can get into a typeface. I'm going to call this like Windows Workstation, and I can hold Shift Enter to go to new lines. Say like Windows 11. Windows Server 20. I'm also going to write down IP address. Just for now. We're going to come back to that. Now we actually have like a little bit of a... This is kind of what we're going to design. Let's go to computer now in the top left. I'm just going to grab these. So this is going to be our computer we're going to be hosting this stuff on. And this is going to be the VMware hypervisor box itself. I can also hit... I can start typing inside here, but what I want to do is go to the text tab. I want to bring this down here to the center. Like VMware. This is going to be the boundary of the virtual machine hypervisor. This is what we're going to build inside of it. Then I'm going to grab one of these like bidirectional connectors here, and you can kind of just like drag them around. So now we have our home lab set up. Grab another text box. Cool. So really basic, right? Just kind of going through the motions of getting this done for the first time. Computer. Cool. So, again, it's important to be able to visually build, or even do it on a piece of paper, or whatever you like, kind of like scratch it out and get a high level idea of what you want to do, build up some requirements instead of just like going and clicking and downloading, making adjustments as you go. It's gonna cause you a lot of undue work. You might realize that there's a problem or like an error along the way. Narinj, thanks for the follow. Thanks for being here. So, now that we got that in mind, we built out the first home lab idea of what we wanted. Next step from here is we want to go and start downloading these ISO files. So I've actually gone ahead and downloaded them. I provided steps inside the lab of what to do. But what we want to download is the VMware Workstation Pro. We want to also download the Windows evaluation trial or enterprise trial for Windows 11 and Windows Server 2022 and the Ubuntu desktop. So I'm going to kind of just go through that at a bit of a high level of how we would do that. Clean up all this stuff at the top that we were looking at. So what I would do is I'd go to VMware Workstation Pro, and there should be like a blog entry here. It's probably going to be the first hit. And VMware was acquired by Broadcom, and now you can download their software this way, and it's kind of confusing to get there, so I'll kind of walk you through it a little bit. You could do it from here through the blog article, which is nice. If you're on a Mac, you're going to download Fusion Pro. If you're on a PC, Windows, you're going to be downloading VMware Workstation Pro. You're going to say in your diagram, are the two icons inside the box each VMs? Yes. Yes. So I have two virtual machines inside of this hypervisor. A Windows Workstation Windows 11 and a Windows Server 2022. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go and download VMware Workstation Pro. Now when you get here for the first time, you're going to have to go through a whole bunch of sign-on stuff. We're going to go ahead and do that. And yes, we're going to go with that. And quick 1 second. Quick. You're going to have to create an account, so this is a heads up. Now we're going to fully logged in now. Go to Broadcom. We're going to go to go to VMware Workstation Pro download. Broadcom. Okay, let's go to Portal. Top right. Is it asking me to log in again? Okay, whatever. Let's do that. Okay. Like I said, a little strange and confusing. Fun stuff. Okay, let's go to my profile. Okay. Like I said, a little confusing. Even I can't find how I got back there. There we go. Okay. I don't know why it's kind of redirecting. So this has just been a general complaint. Yeah, I've had a... Yeah, see U2 Ariel? Yeah, just like everyone. It's been a general complaint. Like everyone's like, how do you even get there? It bounces you around. So anyways, I logged in. It asked me to log in again. Went back to the blog article. Downloaded this. So now I'm back here on the proper screen of where I want to go, okay? Cyber saying, will you ever do a stream expressing the day in life of a SOC analyst? Just talk about your cybersecurity journey, maybe give us some tips and tricks. Yeah, totally. Cyber, you can also... I've talked about that in general other streams, but you can also hop on our YouTube, and there's actually some videos there that I've done of walkthroughs, sort of like a malware traffic analysis triage done, a compromised Windows host triage. They're in there. Take a look at those. We got some more content in the future talking more about that as well, kind of like the story. Oh, garbage, you have to download YouTube videos. Yeah, I know, right? Like, what the hell was that? Kind of bouncing me around. Yeah, good to have you here, Cyber. This is what we do. Okay, so I'm finally at the download page, and I'm going to download Windows VMware Workstation Pro 17 for Windows, or you could download for Linux. And you want to download the latest one for whatever version you get when you get to this. So you'll go inside there and download. And again, more pop-ups, more things to check off, more things to say yes. You have to do validation, all that stuff. So I'm going to skip that. It's going to take a lot of time. So what I'm looking for is eventually I want to download that file. So I'm going to get this file on disk, the VMware Workstation full, and I'm going to install that. So in the background right now, just assume that I am installing that, and that's what I want you to do as well. You get to this. So go ahead and download that file. If you're on Windows, you download this one. Remember, VMware Fusion, you're going to do something similar, but download that for Mac and M1 series and up chips. Cool. Okay, so next step. You're going to go to Windows 11 trial download. We're going to download this as well too, and you're going to put in a bunch of information. And let's just put in a bunch of stuff. That company name. Actually, wait, haven't I done this for level effect before? I'm pretty sure I have. United States. Size, I think. Job role. United States. 726. 7. No, I don't want to participate in anything. Okay, so you're gonna go do that. You're gonna go fill out some information. It's gonna prompt you, and just the nature of how it goes. Trying to download ISOs, VMs, and download that. And now we're gonna be presented with a page over here. So just be aware when you get here, if you're Windows, you want to go ahead and download 64-bit editions, right? You're probably going to be in a 64-bit version of Windows. I doubt you'll be in anything earlier at this point. And if you're in Mac, you're going to want the ARM64 edition. So we're going to go ahead and download that. So you're going to see like a nice download doing that. We're going to do the same thing with Windows Server. Windows Server 2022 evaluation copy. Same thing. Download the ISO, fill that out again, download it. And then we're going to do one last one of Ubuntu desktop. Download. This one's way easier. You just go over here and you download that and you're good to go. So download the latest long-term standing release. Yeah. LTS. Long-term support. That's what it is. So we're going to download Ubuntu 24.04 or whatever the latest LTS is when you get to this. If this is in the future, when whoever's watching this recording stream, but you just download that one as well too. Cool. So that should go and download. We've got all of our virtual machines. We're ready to go. We're ready to fire. Our double's saying, yeah, the website's a little wonky. Finding download once you download your machines does work pretty well. Yeah, I mean, it's great. Like, it is good software, but geez. Okay. Just getting it from Broadcom is a bit of a hassle. Okay. So let's go and get fired up with our home lab. Again, this is what we're going to do. Go ahead and drop that inside well too in the meantime. Cool. Let's go. I need to go and bring in now my VMware on the stream, so just bear with me while I get that set up. Scene. That's not what I want to have. This is why I had it prepared before the stream. Let's just minimize that. Okay. Oh no, CI. We're off now. We're not doing HelpDesk VMs anymore. We are building our home lab. So what I did is I went and I downloaded all the ISO files. I downloaded VMware and I installed it. And now we're gonna actually hook up some virtual machines. So we're not doing anything inside the browser anymore inside the course. We're going off. So the box is VMware in your diagram. Yes, Karina. Yeah. Cool. So can everyone see my VMware screen? We like moving the mouse around. We're all good. Making sure. Cool. Okay, so this is VMware. No CI. We're not doing anything inside the browser anymore. We're out of the course. So we've just now installed VMware Workstation Pro, which now I'm in the app. I'm not in the course anymore at all. We're not using the course virtual machines. Now, moving on. We're now going to build out this home lab. So no VMs inside the course. Okay. So here's what a typical hypervisor would look like. Pretty self-explanatory. You got your context menu here at the top. You have the ability to add virtual machines. You have the ability to manage them here independently. And that's it. Yeah, that's why I said, Kim, like I'm just let that stuff all download. It's going to take time. So we're going to kind of speed it up here. We're going to speed run a little bit. Okay, so what I want to do, first of all, is I want to go inside here. I want to click on a new virtual machine. Now, you can't see that. Let me... setup as see that. So when you add new virtual machines, you're going to get a little pop-up that looks similar to this. Now, Mac will look different, just as a heads up, but it's all going to be the same. You have to either choose a typical recommended setup, or you're going to go custom and kind of make some decisions from there. Now, we're going to go with typical. All these steps are inside the course, right? We're all inside there. But we're going to go through, we hit typical, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to install our Windows 11 workstation. So when you go and you get the file, can't see me doing this right here, but I can do the little drop down. But you're eventually going to get a file that is really long-winded. It'll kind of look like okay. And again, all the steps are inside the course as well too. You can always fall back to. They're literally listed out step by step. I'm going to show you that. Second. Okay. So once you get to the course material as well too, the first home lab is for us to get the VMware and ISOs all installed. So you can literally go step by step take your time with it, fill out everything that we need to do. It's everything that we're doing online right now together. Just add your verification, get your installer, download it over here. Okay. There's going to be some prompts that you have to accept. And it is literally just kind of following the prompts as you go at that point in time. And you eventually get to this screen that I have right here in front of me right now, where you would add a virtual machine to it. Now, what we're going to be doing in the next step over here is going to the workstation. And we're going to kind of follow along the exact same way of what we're doing over here. Everything we're doing live will be over there as well too. So just kind of take your time with it as you go. So what we want to do is put that Windows 11 image file right over here and the installer interface. So take a look and kind of looks like back over here inside of VMware. And we've put the ISO file here to install it. And you can see right away it's actually detected Windows 11. And it'll know that right away. And that's actually a function called easy install. Hypervisors nowadays provide that, so you could actually just like quickly speed up the process. Now, with Windows Server, we're not going to do that, but FYI. Demori is saying pretty experienced with VMware Workstation. Yeah, cool. Yeah, make sure to reach out, everyone, in Discord. Demori will be around. We'll be around. We're happy to help you. This is really... you're not going to be able to do this live stream with me. Let me just kind of clear that up. There's going to be a little bit of movie magic of like, all right, I'm speeding this up now because there's download time, there's install time. That's going to take you quite a bit of time. So the steps are inside the course to supplement what I won't be able to cover live with you. And I'm just going to explain what I'm doing at times that'll speed that up because some of you will be like downloading or installing for a very long time. So please don't try to do this all the same time with me. Just kind of walk through and I'm going to explain the steps and then go through it after the class is done and then reach out inside of Discord for support as well too. Okay? Just want to kind of clarify that. So we're going to mount the image file here as an installer. That's going to be what we want to do next. All right. We're not going to do that with Windows Server and some other things because that's going to get a little bit wonky. Okay, so now we're going to hit next. And then all we're going to do is just choose a location over here for us to install things. So just for like the hell of it, I'm just going to change that documents and just leave the default settings. So the Windows 11, Windows Server tabs, did you specify those? Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, like Karina, everyone else too. The stuff that's already on my VMware, you can ignore that for now. We're kind of walking through these new steps together. I have some things already here on my VMware. Please, everyone, don't try and do this at the same time as I'm doing it, okay? So I already have a Windows 11 and Windows Server 22 running on my hypervisor VMware. You can ignore that for now. We're setting them up again, okay? So I'm going to give this a virtual machine name. I'm just going to call this Windows 11 demo. Make sure it has a different name if you have existing VMs, and you can go with the default location. I'll hit next. Now it's going to ask us for some encryption preferences. I'm going to recommend that you only support the encryption for the files that you need because we're trying to be performant with our resources. So give it a password that you can remember in case anything goes wrong, and then make sure that you check off to remember the password. So we'll hit next. Now this is going to give us an option over here. Choose the maximum disk size. Go with the recommended default for now. That's totally fine. If you don't have enough space, you can give it less, but just go with the defaults if you can, if not more. And I'm going to say to keep your virtual disk as a single file. I'm going to say that because when you split it up, it again is going to lower the performance of it. And I know a lot of newcomer students just starting off, you don't have a lot of fancy hardware, so we're building this as performant as possible. And you can upgrade later if you really need to. So we'll do this. We're going to hit store single file, hit next. And now notice it's going to go ahead and provide what it wants to set up for us. So it's going to give us a hard drive, it's going to give us memory, it's going to give us a network adapter, it's going to give us virtualized devices, it's going to virtualize CPU cores, CD/DVD, USB controller, and sound card. I'm going to leave everything default for now, and then I'll come back and we can disable some of the stuff. Now, I want to go ahead and power on this virtual machine after creation as well too. I'm going to hit finish. So you can pay attention. You can't see this, but there's actually like a little pop-up that's happened. And it's actually installing my virtual machine right now. Cool. So it literally was that fast, by the way. It's going to kind of bounce around, and it's going to like, the resolution is going to change on you quite a bit if it's the first time you've seen it. Now notice I didn't press anything, so it's going to give me this weird timeout. That's fine. The reason being is the Windows installer is asking or expecting you to hit a key. So we didn't do that. So I'm going to go and I'm going to right click the virtual machine over here on the left hand side. Or we can actually do that over here at the top as well too. And there's a lot of little menus that aren't showing up properly for whatever reason, but you can actually hit restart guest now when you do that. And then I'm gonna select inside there and then hit a key to continue as soon as I can. Now notice that when this happens, you might lose control of your mouse and keyboard. Okay. That's fine. You can hit left Control and Alt as like a quick little shortcut to hop outside of the VM and get back control of your mouse and keyboard. And then submit it back. So you know what's interesting? It's actually not showing me, or rather, you guys can't see in the stream the VM right now. I'm looking in the other window. It's interesting. Bear with me. I think I'm going to have to change how that's going to work. Bear with me. I'm going to reset this up a little bit. Just give me a second. Setting up the display. I think I have to actually share the whole. Yeah, there you go. Nice. Cool. Okay, there we go. All right. back in action. Okay. Okay. Should be all right now. All right. Let's see what's going on in the chat. The Demorier, one thing to note, sometimes you may have problems with starting using VMware software. Yes. So there will be some prompts, but please reach out all in Discord if you run into weird issues with your computer. We can help you through it. Yeah. Yeah, Karina, need a lunch. Ariel too. Yeah, all good. We're almost at lunchtime, everyone. And then, yeah, Abby, enabling virtualization. Yeah, you might need to do that depending on your computer. Just let us know. Broadcom's messing you up, yeah. Cool. Okay, you may click on a link that I posted earlier. That should work, yeah. Cool. Yeah, thanks, Abby, for the link. That's helpful. Alrighty. So the virtual machine is now getting ready. So what we've done is we've created the virtual machine. We've loaded the Windows 11 evaluation ISO file into it. And what the virtual machine now has done is it's started like a computer on a clean slate. And it's providing us the Windows installer interface. So I can go inside here now and I can just hit next. And I can just kind of walk through it. I'm going to choose a US keyboard support. I want to install Windows 11. I agreed everything will be deleted. Hit next. And yes, a whole bunch of prompts. Hit accept. Searching for disks. And now it's going to give us a default screen over here to choose how we want to install Windows on our hard drive. If this is your first time seeing this, especially users that haven't installed Windows on your own, all what this is allowing us to do is choose how we want to chop up our hard drive and how we want to install it. Leave it default. We don't want to create partitions and do other things. That's a lot more advanced than what we need to do. Just leave it for the default and use as much space as you possibly can, which should be 64 gigabytes by the default. Hit next. Cool. So it's going to give us a final prompt of what we want to do. We're going to say yes. We're going to go on and we're going to install it. So while that's going on, I'm also going to test the limits of what my computer can do while streaming. I'm going to create another virtual machine while this is going on. We're going to go to typical, and I'm going to use my server eval file that should have also been downloaded as well too once you get through this. But I am not going to use easy install. Okay, that's a key point to pay attention to when you get to this, and the steps are inside the course as well. Don't use the easy install for the server. You might run into a weird issue with the server licensing because it behaves differently than Windows Workstation. So for this, I'm going to say I will install the operating system later. So while this is installing in the back, I'm going to start setting up my second one. I'm going to say next. And it's going to be Microsoft Windows, and it is a Windows Server 2022. Hit next. Same thing, just give it a different folder. And I'm going to say Windows Server 2022 demo. Next. Give it the default space, keep it as a single file, and hit next. I'm going to leave everything default as well too. 2 gigs is fine of memory for now. We can bump that up afterwards. Hit next. So we can see that the Windows, don't mind me, like I said, the screen's going to bounce around a little bit. That's just kind of what happens when you're doing installs with a virtual machine hypervisor. So we have Windows 11 that is now installing over here, and we have Windows Server 2022 that's now downloading, sorry, that's now getting ready to be installed here. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to power on this machine after I put the ISO inside of it. So I'm going to go to Edit Virtual Machine Settings. Okay, this is a new context menu. And we're going to go to CD DVD, because remember, this is like a disk image. And I'm going to use my image file. And I'm going to put it here now, so that I can manually install it the way that I want. Press OK. It'd be nice and ready to go. We're going to power on this machine now. Again, a little bit of bouncing around. We're going to capture that, press OK. Control Alt to get my mouse back. And we're going to drag that over there. So a bit of a different screen. So this is actually still... Oh. A lot of bouncing around. So that's going to install Windows 11 on that tab. Jeez. All right, so now I'm inside of the Windows Server installer. I'm just going to go, again, next all the way through, and I'm going to install now. And I'm going to install the Windows Server 2022 Data Center Evaluation with the desktop experience. So I want the whole package, the whole shebang. This is a little bit more of an intense build of Windows Server 2022, and it's more supportive of virtual machines. We want to get the experience of the whole thing for where we're going. So we're going to hit next. Cybercoster, a SOC Analyst level 1, very likely, yes. Yeah, we actually just covered a huge talk for like the first portion of the stream all about that. Effectively, it just gives you a sandbox environment to train, learn, and develop yourself in, and sandbox like little malware samples, etc., and to upskill yourself. Okay. We're going to hit next now, read the little end license agreement, and we're going to hit custom down over here to install it. This is brand new, different. Hit custom. And again, the same kind of prompt. We're just going to leave the default settings over here and then run next to install it. Now Windows Server is being installed. Cool. Let's go back inside of our Windows 11 setup now. Now, okay. So we do not want to do anything yet. Okay, you do not want to actually go and install Windows as it is right now. But what I want to do Windows is going to try its best to force you to install an online Microsoft account. And we don't want to do that. That's the last thing we want to do. That's going to get in the way of a lot of things. And as a side note, if your machine, I'm installing both of them for the sake of things, just so that it's easier and more performant on the amount of time that we have. You'll probably need to install one of these at a time like this. Unless you have a faster computer, mine's a little beefy. You'll probably need to do one at a time, so I don't recommend taking those steps together. Now you can try, but you don't necessarily need to. So, now that we're inside this little prompt over here, what we actually want to do is we want to hit Shift F10. And this is going to open up a shell. This is a bit of a background shell, so we can circumvent this. There's a command over here we have to run to actually bypass the need for an online Microsoft account. Oh. Pass. We're going to run something like that. And as soon as we do, it's actually going to reboot the workstation. Right away. Let that load now. Cool. Now we're going to pause once more. Run Shift F10 again. Just to make sure. We're going to do an IP config, like we learned before in the other labs. We're going to run an IP config /release. So we're actually going to cut off all internet connection. No more IP available for this. We've cut off the Ethernet adapter connection. Brought the device down. Okay. Now we can close this. We can begin with the actual installation. So we're going to go United States, US. Skip. We don't need a second keyboard layout. I'm going to say I don't have internet. See, like they really want you online. Don't have internet. Enter my name. Password. whatever you like, just something you can remember. Don't make it complicated. No one's going to be messing around with your VMs. Just make a password you can remember. Cool. And a whole lot of security prompts. And like in the lab, I just go ahead and I recommend put in the same password for all of them. Because this is just a little experimental home lab. And with the course for M155, nice easy password to remember for all this home lab stuff. Cool. So we're going to choose privacy for your device, disable all this stuff. I recommend you just turn off as much telemetry as you can because it takes resources and consumption. We're trying to be lean with our computer. And accept. We also are eventually going to detonate malware and stuff inside here, so we don't want. So while that's running, you know, you're going to be seeing this little pop up in the bottom, really trying to get you to download things. Don't do anything there yet. We're going to get to the Windows 11 VMware tools. Cool. So while that's loading, I'm going to go to my Windows Server 2022 tab. I'm going to do the same. Again, just for being timely. Kind of dual wielding this. Finish. Cool. Now you're going to see that you can't actually like log in on the Windows Server. It's a Control-Alt-Delete to unlock. And at least in Windows, you can press Control-Alt-Insert, which acts as an ability to send a Control-Alt-Delete. So now we're going to go inside of here. So now our Windows Server is just about up and running. We're going to hit yes for network discovery. And hey, look, this is looking just like the labs, right, that we did in class when we set up our Active Directory network with the domain controller, the workstation. And we're going to close that up. And now we have both VMs. Oh my. Okay. I think it's just about time to go and get these VMware tools installed. So we're going to pause there for a quick second. So ubi /bypass NRO. So that's just a little command that allows you to force the installer that internet is not required. You're going to run that during the installation. Before you create your user on the Windows 11 box, you're going to run that command, and then it'll reboot, and it won't have the requirement for internet anymore. So this is now up and running. We want to go ahead and we want to go and install these VMware tools. So I am going to go, as I finished installing, yes. Cool, so those are all set and good. So eventually that little pop-up will come back. Nice easy way to click on it. So you just want to hit install tools. And what it's going to do is it's going to mount a connection here. It's going to mount a virtual CD. See? DVD drive now. VMware tools. I'm going to select that, and it's going to try to run setup64.exe. This is what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. Say yes. Yep. Cool. Next. There's going to be a whole lot of next. Typical is good. Next, install. No crazy modifications yet. We just want to get our home lab up and running. Chat. So Abe, hi Anthony, it's possible that some malware could still bypass the VM boundaries and reach the host OS. It is. It's pretty unlikely to get a VM escape type of malware. We're going to be doing a lot of contained and neutered malware with how we're teaching you, called defanged. When you get beyond that, you should be experienced enough to be able to keep yourself secure. So until then, when we start nuking malware inside of our workstations, we're going to be using neutered and defanged malware as learning samples that could not do that. Okay? And we'll get you to, that's a lot more advanced on keeping things a little bit more secure that we're going to be doing towards the end of -2 and -3. Cool. All right, so let's hit finish. Going to ask us to restart. Yes. And you can see like right away, like the resolution was kind of bouncing around. Again, a lot of that while the support is getting itself initialized. Remember, we're making a computer inside of a computer. Cool. All right, so make sure that that's all nice and good. Fantastic. We're going to do the same thing on Windows Server 22. What did I just... Oh, there's like a... keeps like popping out of the window. For whatever reason. See that? Yeah? Okay. Not sure why it keeps doing that. So let's just drag it back. Close that extra instance of it. Okay. Try that again. Click. Yeah, weird. Okay. I don't know why it keeps popping out of the window like that. But maybe that has something to do with the screen share going on. Good old VMware stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside of VM at the top now, and I'm going to install VMware tools the same way on the server. Just in case that prompt ever disappears on you, you can go in the top menu, do the same. Perfect. We're going to select that, run setup 64. So the VMware tools, what it's doing is it is installing a suite of additional drivers and support that makes the keyboard, mouse, and file sharing between the host and the guest a lot smoother, and also better resolution support. That's why you can see like it keeps bouncing around like crazy. We're gonna hit finish. Cool. It should be a lot smoother now after I install the VM tools on both of these. So you can see how much faster like the VMs are to have on your computer, right? Versus browser VMs, which are great, but they have a lot of limitations in horsepower. Cool. There. Nice. See how the resolution just like immediately scaled? That's the difference now. Like now things aren't like flying around and popping out everywhere, right? Big difference once the VMware support tools are installed on the VM. Sweet. So we have a server running. We have a Windows 11 workstation. Let's go ahead and test the network connectivity. Start without my data. Firm. Continue without data. Firm. Oh, Microsoft really loves pushing stuff. Let's go to google.com. Nice. Okay, so I have internet connection. I'm good to go there. Take a look at the server. Start without my data. Firm. Continue. Confirm. Google.com. Nice. Okay, good. I've got internet connection on both of these workstations. So let's take a look, see what's going on. If I open up, the next thing we want to do is work on connectivity. If I do like an IP config, I can see that it's given me an IP address over here on a local domain. So this is actually a virtualized network now. All right, go inside here. That CMD. Big. So it looks like we're just about on the same network. 192.168.145.132. Same network mask. Same default gateway. Cool. So we're on the same network, right? So I should be able to ping back and forth, right? Make sure. Oh, whoops. So ping is not going to work back and forth by default. So you can see like right away, a lot of things will be disabled for connectivity. Gotta pause there for a quick moment. You only have a laptop CI. Yeah, so you have 3 VMs, CentOS, Kali, and Windows on your laptop. So you can see that this is just running on 6 gigabytes of RAM right now. And it's really performant. So on the 8 gigabyte laptop crowd out there, you're probably going to have a little bit of a struggle. That's why I said like 16 is minimum. 8 gigabytes, you probably would only be able to have like one machine on at a time, truthfully. And it's going to be really, really tight at that amount. But that's why we have the browser virtual machines as well to kind of still mess around with. Cool. So we've got a Windows 11 workstation and a server up and running. And you can see, like, once you learn a little bit more, like how those things actually work, it's not that bad, right? It's a matter of kind of going through the motions and reps yourself, but it's pretty quick and easy to build a small little home set of VMs for you to mess around with. So we've got a server, we have a workstation. We now need to go and get a LAN working connecting both of them. So Karina's just wondering, if a virtual machine is simulated in software, is it simulating a particular chip? Yes, it is. Or does it not simulate down to that low level? It is, yeah. It uses your hardware for that. That's why I said, like, if you're on a Mac and you have an ARM chip, then your system will load additional virtualized drivers to virtualize that ARM chip for the virtual machine. But if you have like an x86 64 type of architecture, like Intel, AMD, etc., then same, your hypervisor will try to virtualize that chipset support as well. And it has it. It virtualizes all of it. It is, for all intents and purposes, a computer running within your computer. All the way down to the lowest level possible. Yeah, super cool. So now that's up and running, what we want to do is go ahead and actually get some network connectivity going. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Windows VM. I'm going to go to settings over here on the left. And I actually want to bring these onto my network. Now, this is putting the virtual machine onto your physical network. This is fine for what we're doing right now. Eventually, we're going to tighten these things up. But to make it easier to connect back and forth from your workstation and downloading and sharing files and stuff, we're going to go with bridged, and that actually connects it directly to the network. Warning, home labbing can be addicting. Yeah, definitely. It feels good to like tinker with this stuff, as you know. So I'm going to go ahead and put these inside of a bridge network state for both and replicate them onto my network. Now notice when I do that, I'm going to go back to IP config, and you're going to see actually, this has changed the IP address. So this is actually like on my home network now. So it's different. Before this, it was a small virtualized network from my workstation to them. So we're gonna bring them up as actual devices. We have a little bit more extensibility with our home lab. But just keep that in mind as we go. So they're both bridged. Say yes. See, the IP address has changed now for both. And what we're gonna do actually is we are gonna bring down the firewall and such for now. We want to get these workstations in like a nice, clean, empty slate. So inside of the lab, see there's a command over here that I have provided for you to go and bring down the profile firewall. Oh, sorry. I'm going to run this as admin. Cool. So that. This turned off the both ends. Now let's go and previous terminal. Oh, that's the old IP address. Sorry. That's right. Things changed now. So this is 10.0.0.6. Cool. Good to go. So we got ping connectivity. We should have full protocol connectivity back and forth between these workstations. We should be able to connect with them and do everything that we need. And we've done that because, again, this is your first time building a home lab, first time running through this stuff. And the last thing you want is some little gotchas and little surprises taking you offline. So next thing that we need to do is we want to go and build some snapshots. Okay. So I'm actually going to go and let's just make sure I didn't. I'm going to go and I'm going to snapshot these virtual machines. I'm going to right click this and go to snapshot and go to snapshot manager. And you can see right here, it says like you are here. So this is like the earliest point in time. So I'm going to go ahead and take a snapshot. I'm going to call this base image by selecting take snapshot. Give a description that I can remember. And I'm going to take the snapshot now. See that it's loading. And this is a pretty fast process, like of taking snapshots of your VMs. You can see the base image and we are here. So let's demonstrate what that would look like. If I were to go inside, it's going to open up like a bunch of stuff. Okay, just so like we have a different setting. Just like a bunch of things open, right? And if I go back inside of the Windows 11 demo VM and I go to snapshot manager, you can actually see it right here. I can revert if I want right away. So I'm going to revert to snapshot base image. I'm going to say yes. Now it's going to terminate whatever I've done. Like everything will be erased. Everything that I just did. I'm going to revert now. Restoring virtual machine state. Back where I was. So you see how nice that is, like to have that ability to snapshot. So as you are building your home lab out, you want to take incremental snapshots, and now we have a base image. Before we do anything else, we have a nice trusted base image on both of our VMs. Wow. Super fast. Okay. Didn't even see the pop-up. Okay. Cool. That's it. That's the base bare bones of our home lab. So we've got a Windows workstation, we have a Windows server, and from here on, sky is the limit. Sky is the absolute limit. So what is the expectation now for you students to do? Like you, after this, will be able to have your own home lab. Let's go inside the course, take a look. That's the steps over here, like setting up the server, what to do, what to look out for, making a LAN, putting them on a bridge connection. It talks a little bit about what the differences are, getting the ping connectivity, and then also snapshotting as well too. Same thing as well. So we'll go inside there and kind of just keep on going. So that's going to be like the first step of what we need to do. And yeah. So now we have our VM snapshotted. And everything is up and running at this point. Like right now you have the base clean slate of a Windows VM and a Windows server, snapshotted, networked, shouldn't have any issues with your protocol connections getting in the way. That should be really helpful. Cool. Okay, what are we saying inside of that over here? So Abe's asking for some experience from Cybercoster. Yeah, cool. Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to hear stories. Please go ahead and share in the Discord what you're up to. Yes, yeah, go break it all, Joe. So quick question. Back in the network module, we open a listening port on our network card. Now that we installed the VM, if we run the same command, will it open a listening port in our physical computer network card? That's a good question. Yes and no. So remember, these virtual machines are using your hardware and then virtualizing the hardware's capability into separate instances. So what will happen is your virtual machine that you created right now, and that's kind of what Kes is saying, is it has its own virtual machine network interface. It has its own network ports and its own IP and its own MAC address. It's all virtualized. So for all intents and purposes, for all intents and purposes, your virtual machine that listens on a port has its own network card and its own network port. Now, what's happening under the hood is a bit of a different story. It's still processing network connections using the capabilities of your network card. So like how fast your network card is and what it's capable of, bandwidth, speed, the ability to have ports open through it, etc. It's all limited to that. So that is something to keep in mind. Yeah, for sure. So we got that over there. Is there only one original snapshot, or you can take as many as you like, Karina? Just keep in mind that they take up space. They take up more disk space the more snapshots you take. You can take as many as you like. Like I'll take another one. Snapshot. Oops. Let's take another snapshot. Karina. Rig, step back, yeah. One. Yeah. Also, kind of quickly going back on the network question too, just keep in mind that this is your machine that's hosting it. So what's happening in the network is the network data still has to come to your host, which is then divvied out to those virtual network adapters. Keep that in mind. There's a lot of magic happening in the back end to make that work, but it is still network data that'll come to your host that'll then be shared to your virtual machine. So keep that in mind. Go to? Okay, so that's done snapshotting. Let's go inside here. Snapshot manager. Nice. Yeah, base image for Karina, and we're here. You can take as many as you'd like. So I can go back to the base image if I want. Take a look. Go to. You see what happened over here now? Whoops. So something interesting happened over there. Take a look. It makes a branch. So now I'm over here. And I can take another snapshot. Branch snapshot. And you know, like the reason being is because maybe you did one thing on like the main branch, but maybe you want to try out something different. And then you have different branches. So I can go again, right? Like so you can just like keep on going. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So, at this point, like I said, sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want in this home lab. Now, we have a mandatory challenge, though, for every SOC 100 student. Are you ready? Y'all ready for this? So, here it is. This is the big moment. Time to put it all to the test. Your challenge is 1. Build a network diagram of what you want to construct. Now, I strongly recommend to rebuild the Active Directory environment that you've seen because it's familiar. You don't have to, but you do have to build a network diagram of something. Make it your own after that. So think about what else you would like to do in that Active Directory environment. Maybe you want to grab the latest version of server instead. Maybe you want to go mess around with that. Maybe you want to go and change some different policies. Yeah, the more you can use whatever you like. We just recommend, if it's your first time, that be familiar with what we've taught. But if you want to reuse what you have, that's totally cool too. 3. Utilize any hypervisor you'd like. So I showed you how to do this the VMware way, which you can do until you're comfortable with. There's nothing stopping with you going and trying out to do the same thing with VirtualBox, though. Step 4. Build the home lab. That is your mandatory challenge. You must go and build a home lab. If you have limited resources and you can only virtualize like a 2 GB Ubuntu image, fine. Totally fine. Just go and do that. Go and build that. Now, getting help. So it's a bit of a different story. I don't want you going and messing around in chat in the SOC 100 channel. I want you to go and use the home lab public channel for a couple reasons. I want you to get out of your shell and be exposed to a lot of other students in Discord that are either more advanced or studying different things, and go and present yourself out to the community, not just like your little SOC 100 bubble anymore. So the home lab stuff, I want you to go inside the home lab channel, which we introduced early. This is when I was actually going to introduce the home lab channel, but like KS and Sai and Daniel and a bunch of other guys and whatever, they were all messing around with the stuff already, and so they asked for the home lab channel like last month. But yeah, so that's why. So that's that. That's a couple steps for you to do. Now the home lab channel is where I want all of you to collaborate and work together on things and ask questions, and we're all there to support. And some recommendations would be, ask others for what they've built to get an idea, maybe. And think about a problem that you want to solve and how to build your lab around that. That would be a great way to build a home lab. Like, what do you want to solve? Or think about a job task that you want to learn more about, and then build the home lab around that. And then it's just trial and error, questions, research, and community engagement. Mandatory challenge number 2. You must commit your home lab setup to our GitHub. So I've prepared a GitHub repository. Okay, go inside here. I put this up last night. Okay. Go ahead, and I want you to... I know Chris gave you some steps inside the career prep module, and he kind of walked through it a little bit of making your GitHub. I want you to go through the process and try and actually create a request, a PR. That's going to be the second one. I want you to commit your home lab setup to this public repository over here. There's a couple requirements. It must contain a written explanation of what your home lab setup is, how it works, and the use case. A network diagram must be included, like a screenshot, and optionally provide steps for students to recreate what you built as written steps or with a script. You got a little bit of work to do, but you're going to learn a ton. You're going to learn so much just going through this last module over here, making it all stick and putting it together inside of a home lab, documenting it, network diagramming it, testing it out, trying different hypervisors, building it to your needs and your spec, and then committing it over to GitHub, and then sharing that with the community. Huge step in your career and your journey by getting through this last module. Cool. And that is SOC 100-1. That is 17 classes down. How far you've come. We've started from navigating Windows. This is where we started. We started from navigating Windows. Through the entire Linux operating system, building scripts, redirecting streams into networking, performing malware and network traffic analysis, to setting up Active Directory and domains and security policies, to learning how to build your portfolio, getting experience in a virtual help desk, and then finally, putting it all together inside of a home lab, making it yours. Alright, so Abe, yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for being here with all this. Appreciate it. Karina, looking forward to it. Holidays are a busy time for me. Yeah, totally fine. So now we've got two... Well, not just yet. Yeah. So next weekend, we're actually going to start SOC 100-2, but it's a lot of lecture. Okay? It's a lot of lecture, like governance, risk, and compliance is a lot of like lecture and policy and talking. It's not going to feel as like technically heavy. And then we're going to get into the concepts of cryptography and encryption to make it stick a little bit more. And then it's a nice break for 2 weekends before we start getting into the technical nitty-gritty. So you got a nice break over the holidays, and I hope everyone takes their time off. Please don't go and work like crazy over the holidays. At least take like a week or something. Like go and get some downtime and what you will. But that's where we're leaving off with it. CI, why GRC first? Because GRC is the why behind all the security. We're going to start with the why. If we didn't have governance, risk, and compliance, we wouldn't have cybersecurity. Wouldn't exist. GRC's a big... Yes, it's not happening for you. I wish, though. Yeah. I know. I'm going to be doing some work, too, over the holidays. I got some stuff to do, but I'm going to get some downtime as well. I hope you all do as well. At least like a couple days. Oh, wow. Okay. You know, I'm curious to hear KS's answer to that, Karina. I can share what I think about it. Cool. Abe, is SOC 100-2 ready for purchase? Yeah, so everything's up. If you go to training, theleveleffect.com, it's all of those bundles and sales going on, but you can go and you can grab all the purchase content right now. We're just going to unlock it. We're just going to unlock that next weekend. But it's all there. Whole bunch. I just have to move the GRC module in the beginning before we unlock it, but a lot of good stuff. Yeah, we're gonna hop into the Pyramid of Pain kill chain. We got a lot of cool stuff. We're gonna look into CIA analysis triad. Or not CIA triad. The CIA triad in terms of security, and then the analysis triad, looking for persistence, process, and networking. Report writing, malware lab. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up. What do we got in chat over there? 2 studies for how companies breaking protocols. Yeah, cool. The worst when you forget a snapshot. Yeah. It's on that. But with that being said, everyone, thank you. Thank you for sticking with us. 17 4-hour streams, plus a bonus stream inside there that I'm going to get it back up soon with Doug's Adversary Tactics teaser. We've 18 streams so far of content, sticking with us week to week, weekend to weekend. So first of all, thank you everyone for sticking with us and going through the content and showing up and working hard and being dedicated and just being part of this. Like this is a huge step for yourselves, and I hope that you're getting a lot of value out of it. This is a huge step for us for our Level Effect. We really want to do something like this for the longest time, able to really get people moving along at the beginning and making it a nice big community effort. So seriously, thank you all for being here and making this possible. If you weren't here weekend to weekend, I wouldn't be doing this. There's a lot of people that are benefiting because of you showing up and participating. So thank you, everyone. And I've been having a blast. This has been good. SOC 100-1 is down. Stay tuned for more releases, more content. We've got more coming for you. KS, the bundle deals are until tomorrow. Till tomorrow. Null Bite, thanks for the follow. Yeah, same question as Jay Money. What's the question? Is learning malware reverse engineer worth the time these days? Yeah. Totally. It's huge. It's still like the hardest thing. It's super complicated. If you can do that, you'll be very well rewarded. There's a lot of value you can bring to the world in the industry. Cool. Okay. That's all I got. Happy rest of your Sunday, everyone. Thanks again for being here. Enjoy the rest of your week. Look out for some more updates coming from us soon, and get ready for the start of SOC 100-2 before the holiday break. Have yourselves a good rest of your Sunday and week. Thank you, everyone. Sounds good. No, not tired at all. A little hungry though, Karina. Time to go get some lunch, everyone. Go take a break. Thanks again, everyone. Take care.